How's it going, people? Been a while since we've done one of these. 3 months, I think. Not going to bore you all with it, but obviously my health has not been great of late, and that's kind of put real dampeners on everything, to be honest. And then tonight I've had all sorts of technical difficulties, but we're not going to get into that. We're just going to get into the stream. There's a lot to fit in. Got 2 returning guests and 1 newbie as well. And yeah, let's get them in because, like I say, there's a few things to talk about. They've been building up over the last few months. So yeah, let's not waste any time. So let's get my first guest in. You all know him, Commodore 64 fan. He's quite often on here, let's be honest. You know who he is. It's Paul. It's Retrobait. And he's not there. What's going on? Oh, there he is. What's going on there? Like...
Oh yeah, mate, you're not the only one who's having issues. I've asked everyone to stay out of the way of the route, but obviously they're maybe doing line dancing or something at the minute. So yeah, something's going on in there. But I'm on the Wi-Fi. My cable's knackered. But I was just laughing there, mate, because I was saying exactly the same thing. Watching that intro, I was like, I think that's only one episode I've seen where I haven't been here.
Yeah.
So thanks for having us back again.
Yeah, well, you know, the thing is, right, it's always a good crack when you come on. Like,
cheers,
I always have a good bit of banter with you. So, yeah, this is why. That's why I ask you so much. It's a compliment, mate, really. You know? So, oh, he's froze again. Right, okay. While Paul is frozen, let's get one of our other veterans in. He's a Specky fan. We won't hold it against him. And that is Scott, Sega Zombie.
Evening, gent. Are we okay?
Till tonight, mate.
Paul's gone.
Yeah, he's gone. Oh no, it's going to be one of them nights tonight, isn't it?
Can we talk about Gremlins?
Well, this is the thing. I mean, I've had trouble with my HD webcam, and I've got no idea why it's all of a sudden started doing this, but I've moved it from the bedroom into the front room, and all of a sudden it stopped working. So
well, we wouldn't have this problem if we were all running our stream for a Spectrum now, would we?
Do you know the funny thing? Actually, I was actually saying to my son earlier when the laptop was playing up earlier. I said, you know what? If I had a Spectrum from the 80s, it would probably be running quicker than this right now. So, you know, there is some truth to it. Right, okay, let's get our 4th guest in. He's a newbie to the stream. A few of you guys will already know him. And that is Lee ZX Tetlee. Hello, mate.
Hello,
how you doing?
Guys. Once a newbie, always a newbie. Cheers for having me in. Yeah, very well. Really good, thanks.
We've momentarily lost Paul. I don't know. Oh, no, hang on.
Right, I've been in. I've done a bit of a mission. I've moved my router up and I've pointed it in the right direction. I've told everyone to keep out the way. So hopefully, fingers crossed, that should be it.
Yeah, it sounds better actually already.
Yeah,
to be fair. Yeah.
Well, hopefully that'll work. Hopefully that'll work. So, what did I miss? What were you saying about me, bastards? I can watch it back, you know.
No, we was talking about how everything's unreliable, and Scott was saying if it was a Spectrum, it would work. He's probably right, to be fair. So,
yeah, but would look like figures from teletext or something.
We'd all be very primary coloured
for me.
Or would be in monochrome.
Would all be yellow, and I'd be black pixels.
Yeah, maybe monochrome or something like
that. Right, I'm just going to have a quick look in the comments, see who's in. So we've got Alex, you star gamer. All right, Alex, how you doing? Sai, he's in here. It's been a long time, he's put. Yeah, you're right. It has been. This is a problem. The problem I've had is every time I've arranged one, something's happened, isn't it? I mean, December, I arranged it. I ended up with really bad flu. January, I arranged it. I had to go in and have my surgery done. And then in February, I arranged it, and I had blood clots on the lungs and got rushed in. So, yeah, like 3 months, something's come up each time, isn't it?
Your body's being so inconsiderate, Lee.
It is, isn't it? The funny thing is, this is literally the most unhealthy I've ever been. Like,
welcome to the club.
It's called getting old, Lee, I think.
Yeah, I don't like that, though. Yeah. I don't get old, I upgrade.
Oh, is that what you do? Is it? I'm downgrading, I think. I'm degrading.
Well, I am at the moment. I'm definitely downgrading at the moment. Right, hang on. Who else we got here? Oh, my mate James is here. Hi, everyone. Hi, Lee. Hope you're doing better now. I am a little bit better, mate. Unfortunately, this is not going to go away quickly, but I do feel much better than I have done, admittedly.
The positive is, though, Lee, you've grown an amazing beard.
I know. Look at that. That's 5 weeks growth. That is. Yeah.
I don't know if you've got the patience. I've shaved mine off the day that wasn't even that long.
Do you know what it is? It's got nothing to do with patience. It's to do with the fact that I just really couldn't be asked. Like, that was how it started. I mean, because you think, right? I mean, I've had my gut sliced open, and then I've ended up in hospital because of blood clots and that. So you can see why I really couldn't be bothered. You know, like it's just a case of sod it, leave it. So yeah. Oh, Joe Gaming Girlie, how you doing?
Oh, you're a bit rich there as well.
Oh Christ! The chat just jumped. I was trying to. You must be further along the chat than I am here, Paul.
I don't know how you're hosting. My internet must be really good now.
It's not that. It's jumping so quickly. I'm trying to read through it all, but yeah. Right. I think we're pretty much glad you're doing better now. Yep. Cheers, mate. What's that? I can't be asked. Getting rid of my facial hair either. Oh God! Right, I'm not saying nothing. Right, shall we get into our first topic? Because I'm really interested to hear Tetlee's start in micros. So this one is we're throwing you in the deep end, Tetlee, with this one.
Right.
I always ask a new guest this, and it is. What got you into micros, my friend?
Micros. So this is originally, I take it you mean, when I was a kid?
Originally, and also when you got back into it, if you want. I mean, we all did both when we initially did.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. Probably not. The old grandstand was sort of where it all started for me, I think.
Yeah.
You'll be familiar with these things, the old pong clones.
Oh,
so, yeah. My auntie brought one of them back from, I think she brought it back from Germany. And initially, she lent it to our family, and we just loved that thing. We all played it all the time, and then she said, "Right, you can keep that." So we just played that. You wouldn't believe how much use we had out of that thing. And then one Christmas, I think it was, Dad got us as a family computer because we didn't have much money back then, and he got us the old TI-99, which I think you can see it. Yeah, it is in the screen there. Yeah, Texas Instruments TI-99. There's that little baby there. Not the original one, sadly. I wish I still had our actual one, but yeah, that's a rebought one. And I was asking about this the other day because I never actually knew how he got into that in the first place. But somebody that he worked with, they were going to buy one because he was a builder back then. And one of his workmates was going to buy a TI-99 for himself. And he'd been telling him all about it in this shop in Honiton where they sold them, which is sort of close to where we used to live. And but this chap ended up buying some sort of Apple computer. I don't know what that would have been. And Dad thought, oh, that sounds quite good because there was a good deal on the TI-99 apparently. So so we went and got that and got it for all of us lot. And we absolutely loved it. I mean, it was a great computer. I didn't realise it was sort of a seldom seen computer in this country, to be honest, until recent years. But we absolutely loved it.
I don't know anybody who had one growing up. I mean, a lot of the games you've been showing, a lot of them you've been showing in videos, I'd never seen before. Not on a TI-99 anyway. But it looks good. Like they do look really good.
Oh, I'll tell you what, I think it's the nicest looking system there is out of all of the 8 bits. I mean, you've got the nice metal fascia and that on it. They did actually do another version of it later on, a sort of a cost-cutting one, which was more like a sort of standard
for me,
computer.
It's not even just the system; it's the games as well. The games look good.
The games are great. Well. Yeah, they're really good. Well, funny enough, you asked me about it and said, "Was that the first 16-bit system?" Which it was, but I didn't even know it was 16-bit until you asked me that question, because bits didn't mean anything to me back then. So as far as I was concerned, it was just sort of a computer. But we did used to type the games in on it as well, and I mean, really, the keyboard layout is really kooky on it. But we'd sit down and spend the whole evening typing in a game, and no way of saving it. We'd just play it, and probably about half an hour by the time we typed it all in, corrected it all, and then switch it off and start again next night. But yeah, the a lot of the arcade conversions are brilliant on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just don't think it really had the support, to be honest. Otherwise, it would have probably done better than a lot of the ones which came later. But they made some strange decisions with the older Texas Instruments.
So I'm thinking Texas Instruments must be an American company, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So
they're mainly known for calculators, mainly, aren't they?
So
that's right, because they had a battle with. Sorry.
So did they make them in America, and how well did they do if they did?
They made them in America. Some of them got made in France, I think. Some of them got made in Italy. But this one, I was telling somebody about this recently. This particular one, when I rebought it, which is what got me back into micros as well, because I started getting nostalgia for the old games. So I wanted to sort of get back into where I began, really. So I rebought it. But the only country that got a SCART cable for it was in France, and the SCART cables were made in Italy, but the Italy market didn't get the SCART cables. So
didn't the French invent SCART? Didn't it come from them?
Yeah, I think it did the early concept.
But like, I'm just wondering how well, with Texas being an American company, I'm just wondering how well it done in America. Do you know? Was it a big seller, or was it like nowhere in the market?
They won the computer war with Commodore. The calculator war with them.
Won it.
They won the sort of calculator war with.
Calculator war. I was going to say.
Yeah, the calculator war. And then when it came to the computers, basically Commodore got their own back and sort of took over the market with that one. So they sort of lost out there. And I think that's when they just pretty much abandoned it.
Right. So it is something for you guys.
Is it? Commodore calculator, nice.
Yeah. So cast your minds back. Cast your minds back. Do you remember something called Little Professor that was made by? Yeah, that was Texas Instruments, wasn't it?
My sister had that.
What's Little Professor? What is that?
It was like a yellow calculator that used to put cards in or something. You had to like.
No. That was the later ones. The first ones you didn't have the cards, so you had different little games. Like it was basically like it would ask you questions like maths
questions, wasn't it?
Yeah. And in the later ones, you had cards that went into it, and you could do more with the later ones. But I'm thinking of the very first ones that come about. But yeah, they were Texas Instruments, weren't they? They were. So, yeah, really good. It was just you talking about it when we was talking about calculators. It reminded me of that because I think you had one in your shop, didn't you, Scott? Not so long back.
Yes.
Yeah,
I did. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
the old Texas Instruments. They what I didn't realise is the little shop we used to go in Honiton. I think they were called Parco Electronics or Parco Electrics, and I think they were one of the main ones in this country for the TI-99. So I guess maybe that's why you didn't see them too many other places. I think they did sell them in sort of Argos and the likes for a brief time, but yeah, we used to go in this little shop, and it was sort of, you know, those old school shops where you go upstairs and the floor was always wobbly. You could kind of, as you were walking around, you could it kind of felt unstable. It's one of those sort of tight places, almost like a little loft conversion. And they used to have all the games laid out on a table. There were only two guys in there, but they were pretty good. They used to sort of give you advice on what was decent and what was rubbish. And
So what got you into the Spectrum then, Tetlee? Because I know you're a big fan of the Spectrum as well. So when did that come along?
I love the Spectrum. Yeah, that's my biggest sort of passion really, is Spectrum. And I got into it actually. It was kind of by surprise because it was a friend of mine. I think I did a video on it, a game called Scuba Dive by Jarrell Software.
Yeah, I remember that.
Played that one. Yeah, well, I went round. I used to go to Army Cadets at the time, and a sort of friend of mine that I was going to that with, he invited me back to his place once after Cadets. I went up there, and his brother was sat there playing Scuba Dive on his rubber key 48K Spectrum, and I was just in awe of it because although graphically it wasn't amazing, just the sort of sheer depth of, to pardon the pun, but you know what I mean? The sort of mystique and everything of that sort of diving down into all those caves and everything. I was just absolutely stunned by it. And I sat down with him, played that game, played a couple of others, and I just thought, that's it. I've got to have this system. And that was the first computer I actually sort of bought for myself. So I got home straight away. I started saving. I thought I'm going to save up and buy myself one of them Speckies. And by the time I had enough money, it took me some time because it's like back then I think I used to get back £2 a week pocket money. So we used to be able to earn a bit of money from like washing a car and stuff like that. We had our pocket money, but then we had other sort of optional money we could earn from doing different jobs like mowing a lawn and such likes. And,
yeah.
I say at the time I had enough money. I had the +2A had just come out, so that was what I bought, and yeah, loved it. Absolutely loved it. I mean, me and my best mate just played that so much. We played the death out of it, really. That computer.
Well, it's just the best micro, isn't it?
It was. That's got the most fond memories for me, and I've owned loads of stuff since. And he had all like the Sega Master System and Sega Mega Drive. I had a SNES in that later on, but it's always a Specky was the sort of best one out of the lot for me.
Yeah. Right. Okay. I'm thinking let's move into our next topic. I've just got to find it. Oh, where is it? I've got so many on here. Here we go. This one. And I believe this was Paul's question. Best failed micro. And he's gone quiet. He's eating.
Not often I'm quiet. But eating is one of the very few times. So yeah, I've been pondering getting like there's a few micros that I want to play, that I want to try, and I'm in the market for a few at the minute. And yeah, this kind of got me thinking. I've got 3 in my head that I don't know if they're failed or not really. Just maybe they didn't do that well in this country. But I just wondered from you guys, what micro do you think failed that if they were all released at the same time would have been like the best one? So, say the Amstrad, the 64, and the Specky, just the big 3. Like if they were released at the same time, which one would have done the best? I thought that was an interesting question.
Right. Okay, Tetlee, do you want to answer this one?
So we're talking out of those 3, are we?
No, just whatever you think.
Or just best failed system. I'd actually come back to the TI-99 again, to be honest, on that one. Because it was a failure. That was... Well, it had a... First of all, there was a TI-99-4, actually, which was a little bit different. I think that released in 79, which was mega expensive.
That's quite early.
Yeah, it had like a chiclet keyboard instead of these keyboards. Looked very similar. But it didn't have a compatibility with the games and everything. It was really basic back then. But then the 4A, I think, came out in 1980 or 81. But it only had quite a short run, really. It's definitely be classed as a failed system. But
would it have been because of expense, though, Tetlee? If that come out in 81, it must have been purely on the fact that
it was mega expensive when it first came out. Yeah. On one of my videos, I did one on a football game that came out for it, which was on Tomorrow's World. And on that particular episode, I put the clip in there because they were saying about the system costs like over £1,000 to be able to play this football game, which was absolutely crap. I've got that football game, and it's so basic you wouldn't believe it.
I done a video about football games recently, and going back to them, a lot of them haven't aged well. Really, yeah. A couple of them.
Actually, if we look at a lot of the comparisons between the sort of ports of Specky Amstrad and the Texas Instruments, I think TI-99 often has the best. Well, for me, it has the best ports. They were a little bit slow. Some of the games they didn't run as quick. That was the sort of weakness of it. So games like sort of Pac-Man and Ms. Pac-Man, they were pretty much arcade perfect looking wise, but they were a little bit slow running. So I think something like although it's technically 16-bit, the process is not quite slow, I think. So
really, 16-bit and back 81.
Yeah, it was 16-bit, but only technically. That's the thing. It's not really a 16-bit system. It is. I don't really understand all the technicalities of these things. But
is it the same way the Jaguar was the first 64-bit? Is it something like that?
Yeah.
It's just a technicality.
Yeah.
All right, Scott, what do you reckon?
Honestly, I think the most successful system, if it had come out at the same time and had the same market space, would have been the Amstrad, if I'm being honest. I think the Amstrad, when you see a game made solely for the Amstrad, its color palette, the music as well, the sound chip, everything was a step above.
When did that release then?
That was the last one to the market, wasn't it? It was probably
86.
86, 85, 86
right.
time.
Yeah, I didn't know it released that late.
Yeah.
And, it suffered so much, as we all know, with dodgy Spectrum ports.
Lazy ports.
Lazy porting, When a game was made solely from the Amstrad, you got some great games. And it's been proven a myth about the scrolling and
Yeah,
stuff
look at the homebrew. Relentless scrolls, no problem at all.
And there is some early games as well that scroll well. So, it was just lazy coding. By then, the Amstrad was the third in the race. So, it's only natural that developers and coders were going to make games on the other systems.
Yeah.
Which was a shame, because I honestly believe the Amstrad, I can remember my mate had one, and obviously he had the green screen. And, I used to take the mick out of him, because at least my Spectrum had 4 or 5 colours, not just 3. Then his dad, I remember the day his dad went, "Oh, I've bought a new monitor for your Amstrad," and we went up and set it up, and it was colour. I was like, "Whoa!" We couldn't believe it. We was playing Grisor, and I'd never seen that amount of colour on screen at once. So, and the games like, because I remember a game I really loved on the Spectrum was Rick Dangerous.
Oh,
and honestly, if you play Rick Dangerous on the Amstrad, that is near on the same as the Atari ST version.
Yeah.
And you're just like, wow, that's unbelievable. So, yeah, for all the years my mate suffered me jesting about his green screen, when he got the color monitor,
it's a game changer.
It was a game changer. It was just unbelievable. Seeing things like Lemmings and all these games, I was just like, wow.
IK Plus looks really good on the Amstrad.
I didn't even know Lemmings was on there, to be honest.
Yeah.
I've never really seen much. I've never really seen much Amstrad games apart from 8-bit Rach videos. That's about the only time I've really seen much Amstrad.
Yeah,
she does some good Amstrad.
If I'm honest, one of the reasons I bought an Amstrad was because of watching Rachel's videos. If I'm honest, because a lot of the games that she shows on there, it's like, oh, I wouldn't mind playing that. So, and also the homebrew, of course. So,
But would things have changed? Because at the end of the day, the 80s was very tough times for most families, and it was all about money, wasn't it? And at the end of the day, the Spectrum was the cheapest home computer, hence why it was so popular here. Lots of people did have computers and stuff like that.
But I'm not asking which one would have sold the most. Just which one was the best.
Would have been the most successful. Yeah, I think the Amstrad. I honestly believe that if that had come out on par with the Commodore and the Spectrum, I think the Amstrad probably would have won that.
Yeah.
Well, I've got to be honest. I kind of got 2 answers, because I agree with the Amstrad 100%. However, I don't know if I can really name it, because I don't know if Si's done a video on it yet. That system, like you guys know what I'm on about, the system that Si's picked up.
That's cool as hell. I haven't seen any games on it yet, but
has he done videos on it yet? Because I don't want to let it out of the bag.
No.
Damn, so I can't name it. Oh, that's annoying. But
mind you, if I was on here, he'd probably have about 20 systems to name, though, wouldn't he?
Yeah, well, Jesus.
Yeah, but I mean, this system I'm thinking of in particular was very
late.
No, it's the one he's picked up real recently, Paul. Yeah, it was very late to the market.
Yeah,
and he's been showing us some of the games
they
look really good. Yeah, and it only failed purely because of how late it came out.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know.
If it's the one thing, it didn't launch it, did it?
No, it was more popular abroad. Yeah.
Is it not Hungary or something?
Somewhere like that. Yeah, I think it was Hungary actually. Yeah.
I think. Oh my God! If I've just remembered that.
Yeah.
I don't want to give too much away.
Yeah, I don't really want to blow it for side, just in case he wanted to do a video and keep it to himself, sort of thing, But yeah, that's the system I would have named. So anybody who wants to know, go and have a look and see which system was popular in Hungary, and you'll get your answer anyway. So, but at least I haven't said it. So,
the 3 I had in mind was, and one of them is probably going to be controversial, but one is something that Scott's been playing, the Atari XE.
Yeah, brilliant system.
Yeah.
And for me personally, I've not seen them at all, which to me I think that makes it feel like a failure because I didn't even really know anything about it. And
so
when I saw,
when was that system out?
That was a re-image. The XE was just a remodel of the 800.
Yeah, XL.
Came out again, 78, 79.
Is it that early?
Yes. Yeah.
Wow. But that makes it even more impressive to me.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was that early.
Yeah.
So that would be my first one. The second one is purely because it didn't seem to sell well in this country, and that would be the MSX2. I really, really want an MSX2. And I just think they look absolutely class. But I think they were quite late on as well. I think they were like 85, 86 or something like that, a little bit later than...
What's interesting with the MSX is it was the format of different companies could make that computer, didn't they? A bit like a PC today.
Yeah.
The MSX stands for Microsoft.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was Microsoft that was...
You know, I've never ever seen an MSX in person.
I have a Blackpool.
3 of them. I ain't tried them yet, but I've got 3.
Yeah, I remember you showing pictures of them, Scott, and we was all like, "Oh, that's
I want one."
When we saw them.
I still want one.
Yeah,
I'll send one up to you, Paul, but whether it work or not, I don't know.
You need to send us up that other thing as well. I've set up the UV light so I can do Brighton.
Yeah,
so,
definitely.
I think it was a keyboard or something.
Mm.
And the last one, and this is controversial, I would say, is the Atari ST. Like, I think it came out early, but for me overall, I know you had one, Scott. So, but you went to the Amiga, so like this is like from what you've told me as well. But like, I only had one friend that had an Atari ST, and I really felt sorry for them because like they didn't have anyone to swap the games with the way that we all could, you know. And well, I know that was the end. That was like part of the downfall for the Amiga, for the software scene, like the pirating, but. Yeah, I can't help but just see the Atari ST as a failed system, even though I think from what I played of it, it was really good.
mate of mine had one, and they were good for music. They certainly were good for that.
I was going to say, for the industry, they were very good for music. Yeah, they were used a lot in studios.
I was actually saving up to buy an ST. I used to be working. That was my first job when I left school. I was engineering, and a mate of mine there had an ST, and I went round to his and I played this game. Can't remember what it's called, but you had to hatch dragon eggs. It was kind of like a slight strategy type thing, but you would like incubate these dragon eggs, and then you could go and like attack when they hatched out. You could attack with these dragons. But I was well impressed because I had my Specky then. I thought, oh, I'm going to save up and buy one of them. But actually, by the time I got enough money, I went to this little shop in Exeter, and they had Lemmings set up, which you probably could have got on the Atari. I'm not sure. But when I saw Lemmings, I thought, no, I'm having one of them.
Yeah.
So that was what I thought.
Well, the mad thing is the Amiga was the original Atari ST.
Yes.
That was crazy, isn't it? And the fact that it was sold to Commodore and then...
And Jack Tramiel, who was in charge of Commodore, was then in charge of Atari?
Then in charge of Atari, and they just made an Atari ST out of stock components. Yeah. And at the end of the day, that's why it never competed well against the Amiga, because that was custom built.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting story, isn't it, when you look back on all that.
Imagine if it hadn't been, the Amiga was the Atari, how different it would all be now, probably. It's crazy.
His two sons, Jack Tramiel, when he went to Atari, his two sons were still in charge of Commodore. It was just like, how does that even happen? Mad, really. But, Kim Justice has done some excellent videos on it.
Yes.
Definitely go and check some of them out. Also in the chat, I just wanted to mention the Rampage Tulk. He did a show today of Ali, which is a little compilation of his drunken outburst on the retro game quiz. It is absolutely hilarious.
That was hilarious.
I'm sure he's done like a compilation show. Definitely, check it out. I was pissing myself.
Oh, it was funny, like when it was. Oh, look, have you heard of the Aegon Light? Funny enough, we're talking about that later on, Retro Warp. So funny you mentioned that. What you're saying there about the quiz, I mean, that was funny. Like, how many times did he say, "I love you, Martin"? And I'm running the Olympics and I'm doing it for charity. And it even got to a point where people in the chat are going, "Are you running the marathon? Are you doing it for charity?" Like,
you know what? I reckon Paul set all that up. Paul set it up so he didn't have it too easy on his first show.
Yeah, I can't believe I won. Honestly, I thought I had no chance. But when the real players start coming on, then you'll see this like we'll just all plummet to the bottom. I've already had a look at where 13.5 was last year, and it wasn't. I think it was halfway, so that's all right. I'm average.
Right. Okay. Let's go into our next topic. Now, this was one that you suggested, Tetlee. So he's probably going, what was it now? I can't remember.
I was going to say, it's pretty well the one about.
I had to reword it a bit because it was like 3 lines long, I think, that you had.
Yeah.
So, and I thought I couldn't quite fit it in. So, yeah. So collecting aside, what is it that keeps drawing you back to playing micros? So take it away, Tetlee. It's your question.
For me personally, I just like the simplicity of the games, to be honest. And these days, I get lazier and lazier with learning games. So I'll pick up. I've got a Series X, and I'll pick up a new game, and you read it. I mean, you don't really read the manuals now, do you? They do it all around tutorials. But even the tutorials, as soon as I start, I just think, you know what? I can't be bothered. I can't be bothered learning all the intricacies of the games. And I don't commit myself to big games anymore. I just can't sort of focus myself and learn the controls and get into. I'm not really into all these big adventures like sort of Fallout, which everyone loves. All those games and Skyrim and just games in general. But for me, I just love the simplicity of 8-bit games. Almost always, with a few exceptions, obviously, because I love games like Laser Squad and that, which obviously that's a completely different thing. But I love just to be able to load up a game. I know what I'm doing pretty much straight away. If I don't, I'll figure it out in a few minutes and just play them. And I don't have to worry about making progress or reaching a certain point. I can just play it till I've had enough, switch it off, maybe load another game up. And I just really, it's just gameplay straight. It's instant gameplay and just simple and unique. There's just tons of different games on there. And again, most of the new games, if I play them, they kind of feel like a game I've played a million times, just reskinned. So that's the biggest thing for me, really. Just the variety and simplicity of the games of that era.
Yeah, Scott.
Very similar, really. I definitely believe 8-bit gaming's purer because it's all about the gameplay, isn't it? It's not about the visuals; it's about the gameplay. The same reasons is in that you've got no fancy tutorials and all of this stuff. It's just straight in with the game. And the uniqueness. We've lost a lot, I think, in modern gaming. I know it's coming back somewhat with the indie scene and these smaller developers, but you had games where you could play a drunk man on the streets or a Chinaman doing his laundry, and you could just be
whacking those over the head and taking them back to his cave.
You can be just the most random characters, and to me, I think gaming has gone too realistic in some ways. They're trying to make games real or like a film, whereas gaming to me back then was all about escape. And some of these games, like you play Manic Miner, Jet Set Willy, it's like you're playing a dream. They're so surreal, these games, and
or a nightmare, depending on what game you're playing.
And it's kind of, that's the appeal, and I think that's lost to a degree now. So it's kind of a unique draw that brings me back, and also the nostalgia. I think I was at my happiest maybe when you're a kid and you've got absolutely no worries in the world apart from if you're going to have enough pocket money to get the next magazine and cover tape, or that was the only thing you had to worry about. You used to get home from school, put your Spectrum or your Commodore or your TI-99 on and just game. And I kind of miss that, and the whole having your mates involved, the banter of what system was best and swapping games in the playground, and that brings all those memories back when I'm sitting here loading a Spectrum game in. And then also you got the homebrew scene. I absolutely love the homebrew scene. I know lots of people don't, but because they just like the nostalgic side of micros. But for me, I love seeing these systems being pushed as far as they can be, and seeing games that we would have absolutely had our minds blown back in the day. You know, it's stuff like the Alien game and what's it called? Last Train to Transcentral. All these games are just, if we played them back in the 80s, they would have blown our minds. They're
totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
That's the draw for me. And I play an awful lot more micros than I think I do anything else at the minute.
So yeah, I think I'd agree with everything that both of you have said completely. I think one of the things that draws me in, other than the homebrew as well, because I enjoy the homebrew.
Yeah, I do.
Like I said many times before, right? I've tried to play Bubble Bobble, for example, on many different systems, right? But for me, it's not right, and it's not Bubble Bobble unless it's the Commodore 64 one, because it doesn't sound right, it doesn't play right, and it doesn't look right. So that's one of the things that draws me back to the micros, especially, right? But the other thing for me also, other than like you were saying, not having the time to play these big, massive games, is with these new games, is all the politics and the crap that they throw into these games now to try and make it more realistic. Oh, it must be like the real world. And like you were saying, Scott, you don't want that. You want the escapism.
Yeah.
You don't want to be reminded how shit the real world is. You want to actually just go and play a game and forget about how shit the real world is. You know? So, and that's the thing. I think with 8-bit games, that's what you got, wasn't it? You know, that was literally what you got, an escape. And a few hours to just switch your brain off and play a game. And it was fun.
I think you can still do that on the Switch, personally, like with the indie games and that. Like,
I think that's why we've seen the indie scene grow so rapidly and get so popular. Is that simple concept? Is AAA games are just churning out the same old game every year, and you know, it's left this massive void and hole for these indie developers that can spend little money and take a lower risk in putting out an original game rather than another Call of Duty or another FIFA football or another Fortnite or whatever it is that the AAA titles are focusing on. These indies have hit the nail on the head, and they're capturing, you know, some of the most simplistic games, and they're doing successfully well. I think that's really important.
You know, I think as well, there's something to be said even for the crapness of some of the old games. I mean, I can play, well, you know, I'm collecting the Pac-Man clones on the Specky, and I can play those, and some of them really are bad, but you know what? I love them. It's got kind of a comedy charm. These sort of, probably just bedroom coders that have just put these games together. I just find that you don't have to invest a lot of money, so it's not like you're throwing silly money at playing them. But I can fire one of those up and just have a bloody great smile on my face just because of the sort of comedy of just kind of how bad yet simple it is. Whereas now, if a new game,
you can't believe some of these games ever made it onto tapes and was sold in shops. They were that bad, can you?
I enjoy
it. I actually have quite an affinity for bad micro games. I mean, like recently, I got Airwolf given to me by Martin. He had a spare one. He had a spare one, and I actually said to him, "Can I have that?" And he was like, "You sure you want it?" And I was like, "I know it's rubbish, but that's why I want it, because it's
music's good. Music's good.
Music's good. Yeah. But I mean, the helicopter that don't hover. Come on.
But that's my answer to it. Anyone who tries to defend it,
it
doesn't hover, and it's a helicopter, which means it's useless.
I don't know. But Paul, what do you say on this?
Well, I was going to just see what he said, basically. So, there's two things for me. Homebrew games for me. Not only are you playing a new game. Hi, Gordon, by the way.
You're right, Gordon.
I get a kind of nostalgia from like looking at the screenshots and like wondering what the game's going to play like, and you get that feeling, you know, when you put it into the tape deck, it's like it's an awesome feeling, but it's really nostalgic, and that means you're getting nostalgia from homebrew as well, you know, and then you get the excitement of playing a new game for the first time, which is brilliant. And like Scott said, also nostalgia, but for me, I find a lot of my nostalgia comes from the music, the game music. Like when I hear like Last Ninja, oh my god, it's like I don't even play the game for like a couple of minutes, I just listen to the music, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh man, that just sounds. And if you've got your headphones on, and it's like, oh my god, like the bass, it's just amazing, brilliant. I love the SID chip. But yeah, so nostalgia for me is definitely through the music, and that's a huge reason.
It's funny you say about the music, Paul. I've got that. I've not shown it yet on my channel or anything, but I've picked up that laptop Spectrum, and when I'm in the shop, and I have a console set up and I have a game running in the background. After a while, it grates on me. It starts doing my head in. Don't matter what the music is on. More of a modern system. Say
I do find the same, to be honest.
But
you almost sound like you're in a jazz bar.
when I had the little Spectrum laptop set up in the shop, and I had the RoboCop music playing,
nice.
That didn't bother me at all. I had that on all day.
Yeah,
because it's just just mad.
Oh, I love. We'll have to do your mixtape, mate, with some SID music on.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
See, I don't get so much nostalgia for the music, but I do get nostalgia for the sound effects of like the Specky games. You know, it's like they had a limited sound bank because loads of games would use those same sounds. And I know I've come back to my sort of favorite game, which was Chaos. But when I was going to buy Chaos, Lords of Chaos, the sequel, when I was going to buy that, I couldn't find it on a Specky for a while, and I saw it on the Amiga, so I thought I might pick up the Amiga version. But when I YouTubed it, the sound effects just weren't right at all. You know, it just those sounds, I didn't like them because they weren't the Specky sounds.
Yeah,
and it's weird, but you know, just like the sounds of like the sort of casting of spells and everything. I just love it. I love that sort of sound bank of the Spectrum.
Do you know something I want to add to this? Right, also it brings me back to micros, and this is funny, right? Because back in the day when you were loading a tape, you'd be impatient. You'd be like, "Oh, come on, hurry up!" And it felt like a lifetime, didn't it, before a game loaded up? Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So now you're forward to now, right? How long does it take for a PlayStation game these days? It's quicker with a tape now, isn't it? Isn't it?
Especially when you got that tape every time you signed in.
You put a disc in, brand new, and you've got to sit there then and wait like God knows how long for it to download a massive, great download patch.
I think Cyberpunk took me a day. I think it took a day to download the update.
Oh, it's crazy.
That's the longest I've ever waited for a game to load. A day.
Like that is exactly another reason why I prefer playing the micros. Because let's be honest, now when you buy a disc, the game ain't even on it. It's really just giving you permission to play it, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, the download, and even if you did have a game on it, it wouldn't be complete anyway because they send them out and they're not even finished half the time. So, yeah.
It's lazy coding, isn't it? You think there's hundreds of people working on these games and it's millions and millions of pounds being spent, but it's lazy coding. These games aren't complete and ready for launch. It's mad. But they don't need to be. They don't need to be because, like what you said, the game's not really on the disc, is it? It's just a key allowing you to download.
Even a lot of the reviews these days, they put like a review in progress, so they kind of allow for they're kind of making an allowance for the developer to be finishing it off, which seems wrong, really.
Yeah.
You know, it used to be really brutal right on sort of the game's release, but now they sort of make room for the fact that it's going to be worked on after it's been released. So it's like everybody just accepts that you're getting something basically work in progress.
Yeah. I mean, you look at like Cyberpunk. There's a good example right there. I mean, look at the state of that. Yeah. You know, had they released that the way it was. Yeah. Yeah.
I couldn't get over it. A day?
Yeah. I don't know. It's craziness, isn't it, really, when you think about it? Yeah. Right. Okay. Let's move into our next topic. And do you know what? I've got so many topics on it because it's been like literally 3 months of me tapping things in, ready for streams that didn't happen. So now it's me trying to find them. That's the problem. I've got such a long list because I know what I want to go into, but I'm trying to find it. Where is it? Where are you, you sod? There we go. It's there. So this was one I thought we should talk about. Because obviously one of our friends, Martin, Hobby Lodge, he's chasing the Hit Squad collection and Paul has obviously already completed it on the Commodore 64, I believe, haven't you, Paul?
Yeah, I got lucky. I got very lucky. You've got to be very lucky to complete it.
So this is why I thought I'd ask, what was your 8-bit micros budget label of choice? I've got to admit, I think mine was probably Hit Squad, although I did have some kicks back in the day too. So, but yeah, I think predominantly Hit Squad. What about you, Paul?
Encore.
Yeah.
Nah, it was the Hit Squads.
Yeah, I was going to say Encore, like Paperboy and stuff. Don't get me wrong.
Commando was Encore, so my Commando was Encore. I did have a few of them, but yeah, it was the Hit Squads. I think they were $2.99 or $3.99, something like that. But there just seemed to be more of them than what there was any others. I did have a few kicks, Ace of Aces, which was like a Second World War game where you're shooting down like V2 bombers, V2 like missiles and stuff. Mastertronic. To be honest, I guess back then I didn't really look at what the label was. I was more reading the reviews of the games, and I knew what I wanted. And if it happened to be on a certain label, it was on that label. But like anything, when you've bought a few Hit Squads, then you tend to, if you've got the choice between the two, and your last Hit Squad game was good, and sometimes your US Gold, your Kicks ones weren't so good, so you used to stick with the Hit Squads because you thought it had a better chance of being decent. But for me, anyway, that's how it worked. And then obviously that builds the nostalgia for later on in life, and it just seemed natural. Like when I was buying games, I never even thought of buying the big box original. It literally never entered my head. I was only ever going to buy budget cassettes because that's what I used to have as a kid. I had
nostalgia.
I had zero big box games, like none. But I had thousands of cover tapes. That's why, obviously I collect like Zap. I've got nearly a full set of Commodore format, and I'm collecting the Commodore format tapes as well. I think I'm only about 5 away from a full set of cover tapes. So, and I had every one because I used to buy that magazine monthly. So, yeah, that would be me.
Sorry, I was just seeing like Kyle. That's my oldest. That is.
Hey, Kyle.
He's saying hello, and Rach just said hello back. Yeah. So yeah, I totally agree with most of what you said there, Paul. If I'm honest. What about you, Telly?
I'm not sure if this would count as a budget label or not, but would Codemasters count? I know it's not a re-release label, but
100%.
Yeah, because Codemasters would have been by far my favourite, because I think I must have had, because I didn't have that many sort of kicks or Hit Squads, to be honest. I think I used to, if I could, I always preferred the big box. And but the ones, the thing is, it probably came into it a little bit where I used to buy my games from as well, because I used to get most of them from a little video library across the road from us, and they used to pretty much always have the Codemasters games, and I love most of them. I mean, I love Top Down Racers, so all those sort of Grand Prix Simulator and BMX Simulator, all those sorts of things, and Pro Ski Simulator. I loved all those games. I don't think I had a dud out of them, to be honest. So yeah, Codemasters would be the one for me, I think.
Yeah.
I probably had pretty much all of the Codemasters collection, I think, when I was a kid.
Yeah, and there were some good titles on them as well. I mean, don't get me wrong, there were some horrendous ones as well, but
there was some bad ones. But if I saw a Codemasters game, they were only sort of $1.99 or $2.99, and if I saw one over there that I didn't have, I'd just buy it.
I used to get the. Can you remember the Quattro ones? Where you sometimes you got one decent one, but oh my god, if you got more than one decent one, you were lucky.
Yeah,
I probably already had it already.
They were normally clones of other games as well, weren't they? Like normally, good majority of the time.
It's simulator. Everything. They just used to put
simulator.
Because
BMX Simulator done so well. Everything was a simulator, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it was a pro as well. It's Pro something simulator.
Look, it is a good point what Rach has put. Even when it said screenshots may differ from actual system. I remember that.
Yeah. The bastards would always put C64 screenshots on the back.
Well, I mean, sometimes you'd even find they put things like Amiga screenshots on.
Oh, that was on the back of Street Fighter 2.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, there were even times when they did it with arcade versions as well. So, yeah. What about you then, Scott? I think I know what you're going to say, but go on.
Well, I think one of the biggest budget labels, which all of us must remember, and they had equally as many bad games as good games, was Mastertronic. You've got to mention them because, wow, they just flooded the market, and they had so many different sort of like labels they brought out. So Mastertronic's got to get a mention, but you know what I'm going to talk about?
Yeah.
And that is solely from a nostalgic point of view, is where I had my paper round. I'd finished my round. They had a spinny stand of these games, and I used to spend all my paper round money on them. And that is the Players.
Yeah.
I'm 4 away from the full set. So this is how much I'm loving the Players budget label. But you would get the Players standard game, which would be $1.99.
What a game as well.
So Joe Blade there. And what I loved about this label is not only did they have original games, they done re-releases, and then what they done is they, for an extra £1, so for $2.99, you could get Players Premier. And these games, even though some of them are rock hard to play, the presentation, the music on a lot of the games just turned up to it felt like a full price game.
Yeah.
So when you spent that extra quid, you knew you was going to get an awesome soundtrack, good graphics for the Spectrum. But sometimes the game, what I've found in this journey is that you play these games, and even though the gameplay is pretty good, everything's solid, it's the difficulty setting. These games are near on impossible to finish or play. But I love them. And one of my favorite Spectrum games of all time, and I know Paul's got a lot of love for this on the Commodore, I think, and that is Eagle's Nest.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah, you go on about that, Paul, didn't you? Quite a bit.
So when I can remember buying this game on Players and loving it so much that I thought, I didn't know back then that it had an original release. I thought it was a Players game, but what a fantastic game that is. And
it's funny, just when Tetlee mentioned about sound effects, there's in that game when you walk through a door with a key, it goes bing bonk, and I still remember that noise to this day. It's just it's
crazy,
bizarre.
isn't it?
It is.
It's such a great game.
That'd be a funny question for another day. Your favourite sound effect moment of any game?
Yeah, that would be a cool question.
That's the thing. I bet you could be walking down the street, Paul. You'd hear that noise, and straight away it'd remind you of that game, wouldn't it?
I'd be like, shit, I'm stuck in a German castle in 1940.
The best sound effect ever for me would have been the old chaos when you cast a spell. Love it.
It's interesting you guys saying that, like Paul said, that he didn't have any original games. It might be an age thing where I'm slightly older. I had a lot of the original games. So, like, when the Hit Squads come out, I remember having back in the day, I had a couple of Hit Squads. I think I had Chase HQ and a couple of other games, but not many, because there was no point me rebuying them because I already had the original releases.
So that's probably the same for me, Scott. I never really thought about it much because I said I didn't have many Hit Squads and that, but yeah, probably the same thing, I suppose.
It's because the Hit Squads, obviously, they were Ocean, they were big games,
they were like
Robocop, and
they were like the sort of PlayStation Platinum in effect, weren't they? That sort of
in an effect,
re-released later on cheaper.
Yeah.
Well, the thing for me, I mean, when I got my Commodore 64, I was quite late to the party, and I mean, you all know the story, but I mean, you know, off the back of a lorry, if you like. But it came with a disc drive and a load of blank discs, and each disc had probably 4 games, maybe more in it, all copied games, right? It was only when I started noticing that the newer games were coming out on tapes that I actually got a data set.
Yeah.
So that is where I would have started getting into the Hit Squads, because I would have missed the big box versions. So that's probably how that worked for me. By the time I got into the tapes, that's what I was buying.
Yeah.
So, you know.
It's mad. Like, I didn't even know disc drives existed for the Commodore 64 back in the day. I genuinely didn't.
No, neither did I.
Until, like,
see, I was the other way around. I didn't know tapes existed. It came with a disc drive.
I only knew one person. I only knew one person in my year at school that had a Commodore 64. Everyone had Speckies.
Really?
Wow. Really?
Wow.
Yeah. And I think everyone just followed suit because everyone knew that everyone had speckies, so you always just swap games with each other. So
it would be interesting if someone could do like a map and like correlated all the data whether you
who had what,
and just see what it actually looked like. Like, that would be amazing to see.
I reckon it would be pretty mad, actually. Yeah.
I think you'd be able to see borders. Do you know what I mean? Because it just everywhere sounds different. It's weird.
Just having my shop and customers coming in and clearing their lofts and bringing their old stuff in, it's evident that my area was predominantly Sega for the consoles, and it's Spectrum for the micros, because it's just I get far more of Sega and Spectrum than I do Commodore or Nintendo. It's crazy. But I reckon you go to the Midlands and it would be a completely different ratio. It's mad, isn't it?
Yeah. It would be a cool thing to compile if you could sort of figure a way of doing that for like voting and that. See how the sort of colours change in different areas. It probably would be quite interesting.
Well, see, I remember when I had the C64, my friend up the road did have an Amstrad CPC, and then he went from that to an Amiga. But then I had another mate that had the 48K Spectrum. So, yeah, I kind of knew someone who had a bit of each. But saying that, I never really got a go on the Amstrad because I think I've said it before about the story with the orange. Yeah, I never got a go on that because he kicked an orange and killed it. But, yeah. Oh, Tetlee don't know this, does he? So
I was going to say that sounds a bizarre story.
So basically what it was, a friend of mine, he was always the first for everything, right? So he got an Amiga 500, and all of us were in awe. We'd never seen one before, right? So as a result, he'd packed up he'd put it down Amstrad CPC on the side in a pile, right? So we go forwards to one Saturday, we're sitting there watching the football, and he was an Aston Villa fan, right? And he's standing there getting all excited, and he's peeling his orange. And I think it was Dean Saunders, that scored. And he was like, goal! Like that, got so excited, kicked this orange. And it's hit the wall right where the Amstrad is and then fell on it in a big pile of mush. And it killed his Amstrad. So,
that's got the most funny. Bizarre death to a computer I've heard.
Yeah. And it was also a bizarre death to his mum's wallpaper because it left a big stain that she couldn't get out of the wallpaper as well. It was hilarious. Well, funny.
Yeah, my orange.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's acidy, so I suppose it makes sense, really, when you think about it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Must have smelled
nice, though. Anyway, shall we move into another topic, shall we? What's that? 10 live viewers, but 5 up. Yeah. Right.
Smash the likes.
Smash the likes, yeah. Right, now this one is an interesting one. It's going to stir up some conversation, I think, this one. Building a brand new C64. So I wanted to talk about this one because Retro Recipe, get it right. He did a video some weeks back, and it was basically him building a brand new Commodore 64 with brand new parts. Well, at least that's how it sounded. And as you watch the video, you find out that the first board he's about to use, which is the Evo 64, has got all modern day equivalent parts on it except the CIA chips, if I remember right. And then basically by the end of the video, he then switches to an Ultimate C64, which is basically an FPGA equivalent. It's not emulation though, because it is using logic gates. It is implementing the original C64 logic gate. So effectively, it's a new Commodore 64. And I should add, he puts this in new case, new keys, everything. So what I'm saying here is what do you guys think? Number one, do you think it's a complete waste of money when there's other ways you could do this? Do you think it's not really a modern day equivalent? I mean, certainly the Evo isn't if it's not all new parts. I just wanted to get your take on it. I thought it was quite interesting. You know, don't get me wrong, it was quite a good video, like, you know. But is that all it is? Is it just a good video? What do you reckon, Paul?
I reckon it's more cost effective to just buy a Commodore 64. There was like over 19 or 20 million made. What I think, because we have spoke about it a little bit, and for me, if you didn't have a YouTube channel, there's no way you would go to the bother and expense of building it. And for me, you know, is it really brand new? Like how new is new? Like he uses some original parts, but then he's going to upgrade them with another part which is even more expensive. Like I don't know. I just think that if he didn't have a YouTube channel, he wouldn't have made it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the thing for me, from a modern point of view, I mean, I know technically you'd be emulating, but I mean, you know, just buy C64 Maxi, isn't it? You know, I know it is emulation, but even still.
Yeah, or you would just buy like you can buy other ones. I can't remember. Retro Refix has got one. I can't remember what it's called. Is it the Ultimate 64 or something like that? Which you can put inside of a case and it's
that's what he ends up. That's what he ends up doing at the end, isn't it? Retro Recipe.
But, I mean, like you can still do it without that. I don't know. It just seems like a real lot of hassle and expense to go to recreate it. But it's great that he did, but it's just not for me, like at all. I just don't see the point.
Yeah. I mean, I know, Tetlee, you're more of a specky guy, but I mean, what do you reckon? Do you?
I suppose my first question would be why? what's the actual benefit of it? Because, for instance, I mean, if you go for, you know, to go to sort of Spectrum side, if you go to Spectrum Next, obviously you've got a lot of advantages with that, you know, that you couldn't do on the previous Spectrums, as well as having games which are basically like a sort of step up to what we would have imagined, you know, next gen Spectrum would have been. But with the C64, I don't quite get where, I haven't watched it, but from what my understanding of it, I don't get where he's going with it, as opposed to sort of, you know, we can get a sort of fully serviced C64 for a fraction of the price with all sort of recapped and everything else. I mean, can it do something that the other C64s can't?
No.
Or is it just basically like building a new old stock C64 in a new case?
Yeah.
It's funny, really, because what you just kind of touched on then when you said about it doing anything that a Commodore 64 can't. I mean, technically, someone had already done that not so long back, and that was also on Retro Recipes, and that was that Mega 65.
Yeah,
we talked about that on one of these streams.
I think Lee put it in the chat there, but the thing is, for that, there ain't any like software. Like it doesn't play Commodore 64 games. So for me, that puts off. That starts at a huge disadvantage for me.
Yeah.
That's the next is quite interesting, isn't it? Because it does everything. You know, you can play old games and you can also play this sort of, you know, reimagine new stuff as well. So you can see a place for that. But if you're only stuck with playing the older games, I don't really see what you're gaining from sort of spending out on building a new system, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I guess the only thing, I mean, I think the only reason I would do it is because I don't know. I think I'd enjoy building it. You know, I think that's why I would do that,
or just buy the new old stock parts of the original C64. Which would you rather do?
I don't know, because I mean, this is the thing, right? I mean, you know, there are chips, obviously, like there are in all systems, that fail quite easily, and there are less of them about. So I think if I was going to build a new one, I would want to do it with new parts. But again, like I was saying, I think the only reason I would do it is because it'd just be the case of doing it because it's fun. And also maybe because it's HDMI output as well, you know. So yeah, it is something I wouldn't mind doing, but I mean, of course, it depends.
You should get yourself a ZX81 and put that together. That's you get all the components.
Yeah. What's Martin put here? Remember, Retro Recipes probably didn't pay for a single one of them components. That is a strong possibility. I mean,
I'll tell you what, guys, this battery is dying quite quick in this laptop, so I'm just going to have to find a charge cable, and I'll probably have to change the microphone. I'll be back in a sec.
No problem. Scott, what's your views?
I've not watched the video either, but I would say one, it's just done for YouTube content. Why else would you want to build a Commodore 64 out of new components? And it does nothing that a Commodore 64 doesn't do. It kind of, I would much rather get a load of old Commodore 64s and make a new one. You know, rebuild and restore a Commodore 64. But I suppose that content's been done numerous times already, hasn't it? It's already been done so many times that these guys, or this guy in particular, is going to be, as Martin the Hobby Lodge said, probably not paid for any of it. And
that's a fair point.
A topic, content, because unless you're going to build something that does more, I don't see the point just to have a Commodore 64. Surely you can mod a Commodore 64 to have HDMI. Surely I would prefer to watch a video on that than I would someone building something new.
Pretty sure actually you can. So I'm sure I've seen Jan Beta do it. I'm sure he's done it. Yeah. And in fact, actually, Jan Beta, he will get a mention later on because there's something he's done recently that someone also mentioned in the chat that we're going to talk about. But yeah, it's I just thought it'd be interesting to mention it because it's just to see what other people's views are on it, really. Because, like I say, I think for me, I mean, I suppose in a way, eventually all Commodore 64s are going to die, right? So at least
never.
No, because there's too many people that will restore them, isn't there? It's like all of the micros now. You've got such a big scene that these things will just be restored, won't they?
Mind you saying that, I mean, you have got modern day equivalents for all the chips except the CIAs at the moment, but they're working on them. So, I mean, effectively, I suppose you wouldn't need this new system because you could literally just replace any chip on it once the CIAs are able to do, you know? So, yeah, I mean, you know, then you're just counting on the PCB holding up, aren't you?
Yeah.
So, and you could get one of them printed by PCB way. So, yeah, I suppose you technically don't need to. I suppose it depends on what's cheaper, don't it? When it comes down to it.
Live on as long as people keep playing them. And if people keep making home brew, that'll definitely happen. So,
who would have thought 40 years on, people would still be playing Spectrums and Commodores? You just wouldn't believe it, would you?
No.
You wouldn't believe it.
I heard what you were saying at the end there, Scott, about the fact that there's people repairing them. And I think a few years ago, we'd have probably thought that was going to be a big issue with, you know, if they packed up, get somebody to repair them. But now you're sport for choice, really. And there seems to be more people even coming into the market that are sort of looking after them. And so, you know, the parts are there. You're not, you know, it's not like you've got that sort of panic and, if my C64 or what if my Spectrum dies, you know, there's going to be people that will repair it.
I've actually, from when I used to repair Commodore 64s and what have you, I've got 8 SID chips, 4 of each different one, 4 for the C and 4 for the bread bin, because I just can't handle the thought of having my Commodore 64 without a proper SID chip, and 4 of each one should last us until I die, I think.
Yeah.
So that's why I've got 4 put aside. How ridiculous.
Look at
So I've had to sort of change the setup a little bit.
Yeah, it's all right. We can hear.
Yeah.
Right. So as we're talking about this and, you know, Commodore 64's living on forever, I think that'll actually be a perfect sort of segue into this topic here, the Argon Light. So I was referring earlier. What was that, Telly? Sorry.
Not to look it up, that thing. I'll have a quick look now while you're introducing it.
So I was talking about Jan Beta earlier on, and this is where I caught this. So if anyone wants to know what this system looks like, head over to Jan Beta's channel, his video on it. If anyone can actually put a link in the chat, that'd be really helpful if anyone wants to have a look. But yeah, so in a nutshell, this is a modern day 8-bit microcomputer, and it runs on BASIC. And when you look at it, it's basically the size of a Raspberry Pi. You know, if you quickly glimpsed at it, you'd think it was one of them. You know, and it's open source, so you can actually get these through PCBWay, I believe, already populated, and I think you can even get the 3D printed cases that they go in as well. But just to give you some specs here, it's a modern EZ80F92 CPU, so it's effectively running on a Z80 chip. I'm not going to go into all the major details of the megahertz, but they reckon it's about, I think it was 5 or 6. That's it. Yeah. It's about 5 or 6 times faster than your best microcomputer back in the day. And I've seen it on Yam.
Not how I expected it was going to look. That's not what I thought it was going to be at all.
Well, that's it. That's it out of the case. So,
all right.
It's got 512 kilobytes of SRAM, 8 megabytes of PSRAM, and well, it's 640 by 480 VGA video output with 64 colors. So when you think about it, this thing will actually run most microcomputers, I would have thought, if not all of them. So this kind of goes back to what we were saying about a modern day Commodore 64 kind of, doesn't it? Because you could probably do that on this system right here, and it's open source.
What's the kind of pricing for something like this, Henley?
That I don't know. He doesn't actually get that on. Like I say, it's open source, so you can get it from all sorts of places. So
right.
I don't know. What I'm trying to do. Hang on, let me just have a look, see if I can find it. If you just chat amongst yourselves a minute, I'll see if I can find it on PCB Way, just so we can try and get a. I'm not sponsored by them, just so anybody knows. Right, let's have a look.
Martin's just saying there between 80 and 150 quid.
Oh, so he's already looked. There you go, then.
Well, there you go. That's a no-brainer then, really, isn't it?
I mean, I saw him tap in your usual, your 10 and, all your codes, 10 print and all that lot. And then when he hit the button, it was so fast, you couldn't even see what he'd wrote in a sentence because he put something like Yam Beta is here, but you couldn't make it out because it was so quick.
Yeah.
Like the speed of it, But yeah, I thought it was quite impressive. Like when you look at the size
here's my question. I've just one quick question. What can it do that a Pi can't?
Well, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I've got a Pi, and I can tell you now that microcomputers don't run very well on them.
To be fair, I've got it as well, and I just don't use it. So, like, what's it going to do? What's it going to do to make us use it?
I don't, because it doesn't run them very well. That's the point. Like, I mean, I had Commodore 64, Spectrum, Amstrad, all that on there, and none of it really worked properly. Like, even when you hooked a keyboard up, it was a problem with it, Whereas with this, it's actually made to be a microcomputer. So I would have thought it would be a lot easier and would work for the purpose you'd want it for. So, but yeah, I just thought it was worth mentioning. That was all.
Can you plug a tape deck into it and load a tape?
That's what I was going to ask.
Well, you don't see him do that. When he's using it, he is running it off an SD solution.
See, if it can't load a tape, then I ain't interested.
Well, I mean, it's got sockets on it, so I imagine you probably can do that. I don't know how you would, but
I guess that would be something. That would be something over a Pi, because I don't think, can you do that with a Pi? I suppose it's got USBs on. You might be able to do something, but I've never heard of anyone doing that.
I mean, Pis do run off generally USD. Although with a Pi, you can actually run a hard drive off of it as well. Because I've got a hard drive for mine because of the amount of games I had on it. So, yeah, I mean, I would have thought there's a way of doing anything's possible, really, isn't it? And the thing is, the person who done it apparently did it because of the Z80. So I'd like to think that he's probably thought of the fact that people would want to run old media and stuff on it. I would have thought, So, yeah. Like I say, I just thought it was something.
Pi even, so obviously I know of the Pi, but I don't understand it all, to be honest. So,
yeah, I mean, this is a thing. I mean, with the Pi, it's all emulation. So, although saying that, I mean, is that what this is like? The Argon Light? Yes, it would be, wouldn't it? Because Oh, someone said here, Lee's beard's looking strong. I've got to put that up. Yeah, that's 5 weeks growth, that, mate.
For me, for the system, what will make or break it is if it can do something that the Pi can't. And if it can't, it'll do all right, I suppose. But I don't know. I just think the pie's pretty much got the market like sewn up. It'd be interesting to see if it can get in there.
Well, I mean, who was talking about the Mister earlier on? Was that you, Scott? You was talking about the Mister, weren't you?
Yeah, early on today. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, has the pie really got it all sewn up? I mean, the Mister's
I think
pretty
once
good.
the Mister gets settled and you can play all the ROMs on it, then yes. I'm talking from an arcade standpoint.
So here's my question: what's the Mister? Because I don't even know what that is.
Right, so Yam Beta video. Martin's put the link in for us. Cheers, Martin. Nice one. Well, that's I think that's open source as well, Scott, isn't it?
It is open source, yeah, but it uses FPGA, doesn't it? Rather than
it's a completely different board, like a whole new setup.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Cave, I think. If I'm right, Retro Man Cave, he does them, doesn't he?
Yeah, but like what OSG has said, they're very expensive. But from what I've heard, feedback from gamers and collectors is that you can't get any closer to, like, I know from the arcade standpoint, I know a few guys that have got them in their arcade cabs, and they reckon the Mister, you could, these are guys that own the original PCBs, and they're comparing the Mister running these games, and they reckon you can't get any closer. Whereas with Raspberry Pi, there's noticeable issues with running arcade games. To most, you wouldn't be. If you're a connoisseur of a certain game or a certain genre, you'll pick up on these differences like you would on any emulation.
Yeah.
I think the Mister kind of brings that so close together you can barely tell the difference.
See, the thing is, Paul's saying here, Mister is too expensive. Although I would argue that the pies are getting too expensive these days as well.
Well, yeah, they're not the cheap components they were.
No.
Before lockdown, are they?
No, this is it. I mean, at one point I was planning on building a Pi 4, but I never got around to it because A, you couldn't find them, and B, if you did, they were just stupid money. So yeah. Because I did also look at the.
I think, can't you?
What's that?
I don't understand. You can run a Spectrum Next on a Mister, can't you? I think I saw something about that.
Yes, well, it's a similar thing because there's FPGA in the Spectrum Next as well, isn't it?
Yeah. Which again then goes back to the Ultimate 64 because that's FPGA as well. So I'm now starting to wonder, could you do other things with the Ultimate 64 other than just that? It makes you wonder.
Perhaps they could put that little device thing inside the Ultimate 64 and be done with it.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, food for thought, isn't it? So yeah, anyway, like I say, I watched that video and I thought that's really interesting. We are about 8-bit micros. All right, it might be a pointless endeavor, but someone's still done it. It's interesting. I thought it was worth talking about. So yeah, right. Okay, let's move into our second to last topic, and this is one that Martin brought to our attention. So first of all, I'm just going to play this.
Hey everybody, it's Martin here from the Hobby Lodge. I hope you're having a great stream and getting involved with all the guys in Maniacs. And this is my sort of thing to discuss or question or something I'd love to get people's opinions on. But this week it was publicised and I was contacted by Cytronics themselves, but also the Zap magazine people, that they're going to stop producing cover discs or published games on these beautiful, in my opinion, 5.25-inch discs. Now, this is a system that I have a lot of love for. As you can see, I own quite a few of the Cytronics games on this medium. I have a lot of the singular discs as well for the games, just a whole box full of them, frankly. Even the cover discs from the Zap magazine, there was a tier that if you joined at that, you got a free disc every month, or every 2 months, sorry. But then also just started creating my own discs as well, with games on. For me, it's a real shame. It's an end of an era, because I was lucky enough to have the disc system as a child, and it's just a format that I feel really connected to. I love these big things. I love these big floppy disks. I love how they feel. I love how they look. I love connecting with the machine itself and, flipping this toggle here on the front of the disk drive here and loading the games up. to me, it's all a ceremony when using this system. So, yeah, it's going to be really sad to see this go. It means in the future, getting hold of games on the floppy disk will become more and more difficult to the point that it stops. So, yeah, I'd love to know what you guys think about it. But for me, I just love it. And it is a sad day to hear that there will no longer be floppy disk media being created for the Commodore 64. So, yeah, bit of a tough one, but I guess inevitable. I'd love to get your thoughts.
Right. So, I've got to be honest, from my point of view, it is kind of sad, I think, because I my first Commodore 64 came with a load of discs. So it's a bit sad that, maybe we're not going to see these again. Also sad because if I'm honest, and I won't say who or how, but I've got a disk drive waiting in the wings. So I'm actually quite gutted that this is happening, to be honest with you. I talk about terrible timing, eh? But saying that, they are incredibly unreliable these days to a point where tapes last longer,
Which is crazy, isn't it? Us even saying that, to think that a disc is more unreliable in this day and age than the tape.
Yeah. So I've got to be honest, I'm with Martin. It is kind of sad. But then at the same time, I mean, these days I do buy games on tape because I know the discs rot. So, but that's just my thoughts. Like, Paul, what do you reckon?
Well, firstly, I've got to say I've got absolutely zero nostalgia for disc drives because, as I said before, I didn't even know they existed. The first time I come into, at school on the BBC micro, but really my first foray into any discs was the Amiga. But seeing that, because I know how much it means to other people, like I'm definitely like, it is sad that it's coming to an end. Like, if they stop making tapes, I'll be pretty good. I know a few people who make homebrew are stopping doing tapes. Cytronic hopefully won't. Like they're saying they're going to continue, which is great. So yeah, I'll be pretty gutted. So I'm more gutted for them really, rather than me personally. So yeah, I think it is the end.
Yeah,
you're just going to have to look after the ones you've got. Make sure that you treat them well. But also Cytronic is saying that that they're going to send out like the information so you can put the game onto your own disc, and they're going to send like a sticker to stick on it and stuff like that, or that you can print yourself. So I think that'll be that's a good kind of. It's a good thing that they're doing. At least they're trying to live it on, even if they haven't got the means to provide the physical media themselves, because they're just not there anymore to buy. Yeah.
I've got to address this here. Only the rich kids had disc drives. I weren't rich.
Yeah, but you didn't pay for yours.
Yours come off the back of the truck.
Exactly my point. Off the back of a lorry. Yeah. Exactly my point. Sorry, Paul. I didn't mean to cut you off there. I just had to address that.
Just what Alex has said at the bottom there. Hopefully, someone else will start making them, but nobody will. Because there's no equipment to make them. It'll cost millions to put it, and we're talking millions to put it into production, and there just isn't the market there for people to buy them ever to pay for itself. So it's just not going to happen.
I mean, is nobody making them at all now? Then
nobody makes them. No.
Well, I mean, I think if I remember right, wasn't there something that happened not so long back where Japan had like declared war on the floppy disk?
I think that was the 3.5, like your Amiga or Atari ST.
Maybe, maybe. Because it just makes me wonder if this is
a lot.
Is this all stems from that?
Where were they produced? Where were most of them produced? The old 5.5-inch discs.
No idea.
Was it a certain country or?
I'd imagine they were made all over. They're quite a readily used.
It seems strange for the production to sort of cease all in sort of one hit. If you know what I mean.
Well, a lot of people who made
focusing out for another.
A lot of people who made discs made like VHS and stuff like that, so it'll probably be the same companies. Do you know what I mean? It's the same thing, really.
The thing is, regardless of whether it was the 3.5s or not, I would have thought that if you declare war on one type of disc, you're effectively going to affect the market on all of it already. I mean, I would have thought the main reason they were doing away from them is because they're unreliable, right? So
Oh, I was going to say I didn't know if it's the environment. Sorry, one of my dogs is getting tangled in the charge.
Can you imagine if that's what happens? You have to go to the dark web just to get
the dark web to get your floppy disks.
What you been buying? I've been buying blank floppy disks.
Yeah, but problem is you put in black floppy on AliExpress and you probably find something else. Yeah, you see what I mean?
There's so much I could say right now, but I'm going to be.
But anyway, that aside, even if you could find discs on there, imagine how much they'd probably cost. So,
I don't know. I've never been on.
I mean, the long production run they've had, there must be tons and tons of new old stock sort of hanging around for keep some of these sort of homebrew guys going. Surely.
No, because their resources are run out now. That's why they're
declaring. I see. So it's not so much they've just stopped producing them; it's just all the what's out there is
gone. Yeah, the stock was from years and years ago. Years ago. Now. I see where you're coming from.
Yeah, Zap 64, because Martin was telling us Zap 64 reported it earlier that day. I think this was yesterday. And then by the end of the day, Cytronic were then saying it. So it's clear that they were getting them probably from the same place. And then they dried up.
Price on sort of eBay and the likes, I guess.
Don't know.
You'll still be able to buy them privately.
I was going to say, your old games are still going to be knocking around. I suppose the biggest issue is maybe some people used to sort of do backups of newer discs because, like you say, they don't age too well. I mean, I've got a box full of them here for the BBC Micro, and I don't enjoy loading any of them. I don't think.
So they stopped making them in 2000. That means your newest disc is already 23 years old.
Yeah. They don't age too well, do they?
So how new is new?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's sad to end. I think I like all media. I mean, I was sad when things like mini discs and that disappeared. So I kind of feel that way with old formats. Really, when something's gone, it's kind of feels like it's the end of an era. And I've got fond memories of those discs from being at school. And I was saying earlier between Scott and someone else that they were floppy disks to me. I could never quite accept. I know Paul explained the reason for the sort of 3.5 inch still being called floppy, but to me they were hard disks. Those, so floppy disks is those old bendy ones. They were called floppy for a reason because you could sort of you could sort of bend them around.
Differentiated originally between compact because you had compact discs, even though they weren't compact, they were massive, weren't they? Like laser disc. So you had laser disc, floppy disc. I think it was just that's all it was, and obviously inside it's just still a floppy disk.
See, when you were saying
if you think about what reads it, it would still be a floppy disk drive that you're putting it in. You know what I mean? Like so, I guess that's how it went.
See, when you were saying mini disc a minute ago, was you talking about the mini disc as in like what you put in the Sony mini disc players? I loved them.
Yeah, I had a mini disc when I had a home audio one and a car one.
Yeah, and they didn't scratch, they didn't jump or anything. They were great, but I mean, MP3 killed them off, didn't it?
Did
yeah,
absolutely.
But anyway, we're going off on a tangent now. Scott, what's your views?
My views are the same as the others. Really, it's really sad. I always find it sad when a media system like that dies.
Yeah.
I can remember the day very well when it was announced that VHS was stopping. Even though we were heavily into the DVD scene, it was still very sad to see the video end. And then you saw the demise of so much, didn't you? When videos went, it was mad. And the same with laser discs. I loved my laser discs. I've always been a film buff, so I've got a lot of nostalgia for that. But for me, with the discs, I'm with Tetlee. I do not remember anyone that had Commodore discs. It was always Commodore tapes or cartridges. Them big floppy disks just remind me of school and the BBC Micro. That's what they remind me of. So it is sad to see them go. It will be interesting to see how the market goes now, because I know with the Spectrum, because that used a different disc, a 3-inch disc. I think it's 3-inch in it.
I think
they've not been available for years, and no one's ever making anything new on them that I know of. And they go for quite a hefty price. I don't know what the price is for a blank 5-inch floppy disk, but the Spectrum discs command quite a high price on eBay and retro groups. You pay a lot of money for one of those. So it will be interesting to see now that these companies no longer have the access to these discs if the blank discs are going to go up in value. Because people will be buying the Cytronic games and wanting to put them onto a blank disc, won't they?
Yeah.
They'll be way more common than those specky discs ever were, though, won't they? Because, I mean, they're run.
Yeah.
There must be thousands and thousands or millions of them out there.
Yeah. But it'll be interesting to see what happens. And it's good to hear that the companies like Cytronic are going to still send out the labels and the information you need to put that on your own disc. So that sort of makes it a little bit better, doesn't it? But it is a sad day. I can remember last year I read an article. It was only a small article, and it was on the CRT TV.
Yeah.
A company in China, I think it was, or it might have been Korea. I can't remember. Were the last manufacturers of CRT TVs, and they stopped last year. And I was just like, wow, that's mad. Because I thought they stopped a few years ago, but the last production was late last year.
Oh, so you're still going to be able to find a modern equivalent of them then, at least.
I don't know what they were being manufactured for, but there was a factory in China still making CRT TV monitors. So but it's gone. Yeah.
So Martin's put in the last pack that he bought was 20 quid for 10. That's not too bad, is it?
No, that's really good. You would pay, I think, at least. The Spectrum discs are at least a $5 each, at least.
Well, Martin's hit the nail on the head here, so they're probably going to go up now. Yeah,
they will. I think they will. I genuinely think you'll see the price now that it gets out there that these discs aren't readily available. They'll start going up.
Yeah, they go through the roof, won't they?
The usual places. Yeah.
Mind you, Martin's Hobby Lodge is probably insulated with those bloody discs by now.
Well, I mean, he owns practically. Well, he's going to own all of Cytronic's library now because, like you just said in the chat, he rushed out and bought all the rest of the games. Like, look, here you go. When I heard this news, I put an order in for a bunch of games.
He's going to start reading around eBay, isn't he? 100 quid a throw.
Yeah.
I can see Martin setting up his own company that makes these discs again.
Do you know what I find funny?
Hobby Lodge disc. Can you imagine it?
Yeah.
Do you know what I find funny about this though? Is that I think it was Paul and then maybe myself that were doing the Commodore 64 Cytronic videos, right? And then Martin got into it. And then Martin just blew us out of the water because he just bought every single game they had.
I don't know what to do with them.
I think I've only got a couple of games maybe that he hasn't got, and he's probably got them now. So you know,
I do miss doing homebrew videos. Actually, I might do one of those. I might get back to doing something like that. I used to enjoy them.
Definitely.
I might do a homebrew video.
The only reason I stopped them was because obviously with this injury and that. Up until then, I was doing a homebrew every Friday. So yeah, it's something I intend to go back to. But yeah,
I might do that.
Has to be done, doesn't it? But we'll get to homebrew in a bit. So before we do get to homebrew, I just want to play this last bit because Martin has a summary for us all. So we're going to play that now.
Back again, guys. I hope you've been having a great conversation about this, and I didn't know if Lee would give me the opportunity, and if he plays this video, then he has, to just give you my thoughts as I sit here and look at this pile of amazing discs in front of me. And my thoughts are this: ultimately, this is inevitable. This is a piece of history that's going to be very, very difficult to keep going. You know, what company in the world is going to stay out there producing this type of disc for systems that no longer need it, right? There needs to be supply and demand for these things. And I'm afraid us enthusiasts or us homebrew collectors don't quite cut it in the demands of numbers they would need to keep factory equipment and all the rest of it to keep this going. But as I said before, a lot of people would say, hey, why don't you just use, I'm sure it's been discussed in the chat, you know, why don't you just use an SD card solution, or why don't you just do emulation, or why don't you just do a myriad of other things, disk emulators, all these sorts of things. And as I said before, for me, it is the whole ceremony of using this system is what works for me. If I don't interact with the machine, if I don't use the keyboard, if I don't use the joystick I had as a child, and all of the bits that go through it, it becomes a more hollow experience. It's why I've never really gotten on with the Maxi or the Mini or the Vice emulators and those things. It's as much about me interacting with this stuff as it is me playing, the games on the system. So to me, with the loss of this going forward, a chunk of the experience is going to be removed, and of course I know eventually I'll have to go towards, more cartridge based or indeed SD solutions. Of course the tapes are there, and there've been no issues around the continuation of getting the tapes, because I know they are still used in some extreme circumstances in the world, and they are still being produced as new items. So I think tapes will continue for a long time. It is just this one, and for me it's very personal because, as I said before, this is the exact drive I had when I was a kid. Very, very fortunate to have that. It was a very expensive thing to have, and being able to play those discs is just part of it. So yeah, getting to be with it and interact with it is a huge chunk of the hobby, and I will be missing it if I can't do it anymore. But hopefully I have enough of my own collection of discs, and certainly enough games here to keep me going for a long, long time anyway. But yeah, thank you guys for having that conversation about it, and I will definitely be watching back your thoughts. Thanks very much, guys. Enjoy the rest of the stream. Have a great night, everybody. Bye-bye.
Yeah. So, I think pretty much...
Keep us for the next 20 years.
What's that?
I said Martin's got enough discs to keep us going for the next 20 years.
Yeah, probably has. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I think Martin's pretty much just echoed exactly pretty much what we've all just said, really. It is sad, like you say, it's an end of an era. So,
when I put the picture up in the group chat, I wasn't expecting it to have this much of an effect, really. Like, I just saw it and I thought, oh, fucking hell, I best put that in, because that'll interest people. But I didn't know about the Zap news from before the previous day. I didn't know that, so I hadn't put two and two together. I thought it was just Sidetronic for whatever reason. So it wasn't until then, when the conversation started, I was like, oh no. Do
you know that the best picture I saw of one of the 5.25 discs was that floppy Fandango disc picture that was going around? Did you see that?
I think I did see
something. Inside joke. I thought that was good. But anyway, moving on. That probably went over a lot of people's heads, but you guys know what I'm talking about, don't you? So, right. Let's go into homebrew. We always do homebrew every stream. Basically because I love it, and I think you guys probably do too. So now I did notice. Sorry, go on.
I think you're going to say what I was going to say. I was going to remind you of what someone said in the chat. I don't know if you were going to say that.
What Marathon Gaming said, yeah, I saw it. So he asked what our favourite homebrew games are. So I can easily answer that. Mine's Redshift on the Spectrum, so that's mine. Paul, what's yours?
Obviously, it's going to be Sam's Journey. It's just the ultimate on the Commodore 64. But if I'm going to mention the Spectrum, it's got to be. I love Neoplasma. Like, I just adore that game. And for the Amstrad, Relentless. I think Relentless is just superb. It's probably one of my favourite shooters, to be fair. And it scrolls like a dream. I love the neon sort of looking colours. It's fast.
It reminds me of Tron, it's Tron sort of look, isn't it? Yeah. So, good game.
That would be mine on on the systems I play homebrew on.
Tetlee, what's yours?
Well, you've already beaten me to it, actually. Redshift would be my number one. I just think as a, well, not just a specky, really, as a shooter altogether, even if you're talking modern systems, they got beyond me, really, when it became what is it they called them, bullet hell shooters and all that. They went a bit beyond me there. So for me, that's just the perfect balance of just a beautiful looking and playing shooter. And it's just fantastic. But as a second, just to offer something different, I think Bonnie and Clyde from Zosia would come a close second.
Yeah, I watched that video the other day. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great game.
And
you can download them as well. I was going to say you can download them for free and play them on the next. You know, it's
okay with that.
Yeah. So I think we know what Scott's is going to be now. Then go on, Scott.
Well, my favourite homebrew game has got to be this one. It took a few months for me to get it to load, but it's got to be Speed.
Yeah, you wind up merchant. You hate that game. Don't even try it. I know you hate that.
This game
it should be called shit, not Speed.
With Bitmapsoft, bless them, you know, tried to say it was user error in why this wouldn't load, and it turned out that there was lots of issues with the SD card, and I had lots of fun trying
Scott,
to get
it was user error. User error.
Yeah, user error. And do you know what? After about 3 months, and I finally got a working copy of this game, I've never played the biggest pile of shit in my life. I actually felt mugged in the money I gave for this game. I've played better free games than this. I've played better Mastertronic games back in 1982 than I've played that. No, I'm going to go. What's that?
I was just going to ask, but how much does that game get sold for?
Well, it was about 18 quid. I hate to think what it is now.
I bet it's only gone up.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, it's going to be.
Since it's run, it's becoming exclusive. It's like banned substance, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right, Martin has travelled to Edinburgh and lost his mind. Like, what is this? I think Bitmapsoft get a tough time. Shut up, Martin, you hate them. What are you talking about?
No, this is a game I do not have a physical copy of, and I'm trying to locate one, and that is a game called The Sword of Iana. Now, I don't know if you guys have played this game yet.
No, I've seen you play it.
My number one would have been Redshift, and Sam's Journey, what I've played on it on the Maxi, is a cracking game too. But there's something about The Sword of Iana that is an amazing game, and I need to get a physical of it. I need to find somewhere where there's a physical release.
So it did exist in a physical release.
Pardon?
Did it definitely exist in a physical release?
I don't know.
Maybe it wasn't.
Yeah, it was OSG that pointed out to me that I should play it. I think he might have like given me the download for it or something like that, and I played it, and I was just blown away. The game is amazing. It plays like a Switch modern day Metroidvania style game, but for the Spectrum, and you know, it blew me away in how amazing it plays. It's a great game. So yeah, Redshift and that.
Don't know.
I don't know. I think I do mention on my video, but I can't remember.
I can't remember. It does look incredible.
It is a great game. It really is. And there's some cracking Spectrum homebrew games coming out. People are telling me every day pretty much of a new game. And I you know, I'll give it a whirl. But I like to get into a game if I've got it physically. I'll have a little bit of a play on them if they're downloads. But I like to have the physical game, really. And then I get real stuck into them.
We'll see, like,
Castlevania on the Spectrum. I thought that was a good game.
Yeah, that was good.
See, for me, another good one would be Last Train to Trans Central. Unfortunately, I couldn't buy a physical edition of that, though, because it's Bitmapsoft, isn't it? So I had to get a download of that. What was that?
I said you can buy it, you just might not get it.
Well, Scott knows the answer to that one, didn't you, Scott?
I've got a spare few tapes of that that I'll send you, whether they load or not. You know, it's a bit hit and miss, but
yeah, it does worry me actually because I've got what was the Alien one I bought? Was it Alien Girl?
Yeah.
And obviously I couldn't play it at the time because my Spectrum wouldn't work. I need to check that actually and make sure that works.
I never got my replacement for that one.
Yeah, because I got the big box one. Did you just get the single tape edition?
Yeah, I've just got the budget.
Yeah, they did a deal on them.
It did look nice, a nice set. Like when I seen Scott's, and I think he's got it on sale or something. It was like, that's worth it. Like,
I got the big box one, but unfortunately, again, missed loads.
Yeah, I mean, well, now they don't do anything now, but even if they do, like you're saying, they don't
Actually,
work.
you can buy. I looked the other day, and you can actually buy Alien Girl again, even a big box. It's more expensive.
Oh, can you?
I don't know if it's in stock. I think it's about 25.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting because they have promised me that they're going to send me a replacement if that ever comes back in stock.
Well, showing is in stock, isn't it? You have a look, Scott.
Oh, interesting.
Well, you can drop me an email. I mean, you'll probably be waiting 6 months before you get a reply, but you know.
See, there you go. If Martin the Hobby Lodge is saying the Sword of Iona is very good, coming from a Commodore guy, I'm telling you now, lads, Sword of Iona is an amazing game. Well, I'd never heard of it until I watched OSG's video, and then I was talking to him in a WhatsApp group, and he sent me that game, and I was just like, "Oh my god, this game is amazing! It really is."
So this thing here, like Martin's there, quality control. Actually, technically, he is, because if you get like a damaged disc or whatever, he could probably actually fix it. To be honest with you, so yeah, let's see. I can re-image their stuff. Yeah, so,
their stuff. Oh yeah,
absolutely. So it's exactly what I was just saying. Yeah, because he's got all the gear to do it now, hasn't he? So
yeah.
I don't know. It's hilarious. But
he's
yeah,
going to be something like THL Solutions or something, isn't he? THL Gaming Solutions or something.
Yeah.
I think we should set up our own little publishing company, the Maniacs Publishing Company, and get these homebrew games out.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome to do, wouldn't
We
it?
do all the busy work, and Martin can sort out the discs.
Yeah, Martin can do all the technical
All
stuff.
the work, basically.
We'll just design the pretty covers and stuff.
We're the investors.
8-bit rates. Tapes will probably go out of production by the time you get your bitmap soft tape. The funny thing is, she's probably right.
Yes.
That's the worrying thing.
Oh,
Yeah, see, that's another one. Million Molly. That was another one I wanted physical, but I couldn't get it because they just took all their tapes off.
I've got a couple of nice homebrews today, physical ones.
Oh, really? Is it a secret, or can you say?
I didn't know if we were moving on to sort of new stuff or not. New
Oh, no. This section there until the end of the stream is all homebrew. We do it at the end of every run.
These stand up right after I killed my ZX Spectrum last night. So I got that one.
You can always send them to me, Tetlee, as you know.
Let's put you on solo so we can see that properly.
Can I just say that artwork looks absolutely stunning?
Is that
brilliant.
the game I missed out on, Tetlee, on Sinclair for Sale?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
I'm gutted now. That looks amazing.
To be honest, I was gutted to have missed these when they did the Kickstarter for the annual. But it wasn't the annual. It was actual games I wanted. So there's nothing else inside.
Nice.
No poster
It's
or
got
anything
a
like that.
cut out for it. Yeah, it's good.
Nice. Yeah, nicely packaged.
Seeing as it's knackered, seeing as your spec is knackered, feel free to send it up to me, and I'll just play it in the meantime.
You know what I'm planning to do? I'm just about to order a data recorder so I can load them up on the Spectrum Next. So yeah, that's that one, and then this one I really wanted. This looks so cool. I like the
Mr. Hare.
And the kitty cat.
Yeah, they're good.
This looks great. The music is absolutely outstanding.
And again, that's another one that's a shame because the rest of the series were on bitmap, weren't they?
Yeah, they were. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he was at Blackpool. I think he might have been at Blackpool when we were there. I'm pretty sure it was him. Is it on like Dreamcast or something?
No, it's Flea.
Is that not by the same guy? No, maybe not.
No, he's called Lee Chop Stevenson, is it, or something? The guy that does the Mr. Hare games.
Yeah, it's interesting because I believe it was Side that was saying that he'd released 3 of the Hare games on bitmap, and then when he approached them with the 4th one, they didn't want it or something. So, which is a real shame.
I'm really gutted now that I missed that because I think you sent the link and let us know, Tetlee, that it was there, and by the time I got on there, it was gone. And seeing that box
really
art, I'm gutted now.
I was gutted when nobody replied for a while because I could see people replying, but obviously I wasn't much I could do on it. There weren't many left even when I saw it there.
Next time that come up, can you say, "Can I have 4 copies, please?"
When it came to this one, it came to Kitty Catacombs, I just because I got in on time with the Hackencast or whatever it's called there, and I just sent a message saying, "Is there any of the Kitty Catacombs left as well?" And when he gave me the payment details for that one, he said, "Yeah, I've got Kitty Catacombs as well." So I said, "Yeah, both of them, please." So yeah, I was chuffed because I was so annoyed I messed up on a Kickstarter when that was there for the annual, and it's only because I left it till last minute and it did verification on Becky's phone, and I couldn't get hold of Becky's phone at the time. She was out, and then next thing I forgot about it and it expired. So those two games were the sort of add-ons. They were all I wanted out of that Kickstarter for the annual. So yeah, really happy to have them.
Yeah, what was it I had? I had a notification the other day. I forget what site it was now, but it was the Oliver Frey books had gone down cheap. I forget where it was now.
Oh, really?
Is it not,
Somebody was actually
the guy who do Zap. Who did the Zap magazine?
I don't know.
It's the same guy, isn't it? The Fusion book.
Yeah, Fusion.
Somebody was buying them up, cutting them out and selling them as art pieces. Did you see that?
No, but I think it might be. I don't know. Was it Funstock? It was definitely one of the websites anyway. That I got an email through saying there was a deal. They put the Oliver Frey book. It's the one you've got, I think, Scott.
Yeah,
the one that's got the spaceship on the front of it.
Yeah, I know the one. Yeah,
they were down to like I think a tenner, something like that, like half price.
Well worth that. It's a beautiful. Yeah. I wish I could remember which site it was now.
That was amazing. That was amazing artwork.
Oh yeah,
they used to do.
Yeah,
especially for our generation. I mean, you can recognise his artwork a mile off, couldn't you?
And that's another thing, isn't it? Going back to what we were saying earlier on about modern games and that, it's another thing that modern games, you don't get now. You don't get this fantastic artwork you used to get. And funny enough, I mean, one of the Cytronic games I bought, X-Force, which is a shooter, has actually got Oliver Frey's artwork as the cover. But apparently it was previously used on an older game in the 80s, I think. Only difference is what they've done is they cut it down a bit, so you've only got like the one ship in it instead of two fighting. So, they were even using his artwork, his older artwork, even lately, so.
Yeah.
Quite interesting. Yeah. I take it that must have been on some sort of permission. I take it that must have been on some sort of permission basis then. I don't know who would give the right to use the artwork now, because obviously he's no longer with us. So I guess
obviously, partner as well. He died just a few months ago as well.
Yeah, what's that? Roger? Was it Roger something?
Yeah, Roger Keane.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean that game. I'm trying to think when I got it. Probably over a year ago. So it was before he died. But yeah. So I think they're still selling it though. I'm sure they are. Yeah. So any homebrew games anyone's planning on getting? Because I mean, personally, at the moment, I've not been working for weeks, so money's tight. But when I'm doing well financially, I would like to pick up a couple of Amstrad homebrew games. So one of them, obviously, is Relentless. I would like the actual physical copy of that. I've got a ROM of it, but I actually want the proper tape. The other one was, it's another shooter that Cytronic do. Saber something.
Saber
That's what I was thinking.
No, that's an old game, isn't it? Saber Wolf.
That's Ultimate.
Yeah. Let me have a look. Talk amongst yourselves. What are you planning on getting, Paul? Anything?
If the price came down a bit, I would like the Aliens Neoplasma on the next. But it's just a bit too expensive for me at the minute. So hopefully, if that goes in a sale, I'd love to get one of them. I would definitely recommend to anyone who likes the Amiga. I think OSG mentioned it a bit earlier. Graham Cowie's, the ninja game that he made for the ninja fighting game that he made for the Amiga.
Oh, Devil's Temple, is it?
Is that getting another physical release? Is it, Paul?
Yeah, I think he's
really.
Hopefully making more so. So yeah, that'd be
really good. But the price went up, but just when I was about to order that,
awesome game.
It's quite expensive now.
I can't remember. I think I paid 20. Was it 20 quid? Yeah,
I think it's
really well put together.
40 now.
Really?
Wow.
Wow, it's doubled.
What, Devil's Temple's 40 quid now? Is that what you're saying? Wow.
It's either 35 or 40. I was going to order it at 20, and then I left it a day or two, and when I went back, it gone up to about 35 quid.
Wow.
So yeah, I would definitely recommend. Well, I would have recommended that. Whether he'll release like when the new ones come in, I think they'll probably, hopefully, just be the normal price.
Yeah.
Who knows? But apart from that, no, I haven't really been keeping up to date with the homebrew scene on the Commodore 64. I watch is it Retro Gamer Nation, RGN? I think I normally watch his stuff. That's how I catch up really with homebrew, because he gets to see them quite early. It's the same guys I think that run like the main Commodore 64 site now. So
I think I know what you mean. Yeah,
they're normally like pretty on the ball with that. I haven't watched any of their stuff for a couple of months, I think, since January. So yeah, I need to catch up on that.
Found it. That's it. Star Saber.
I used to have that. I had that. That's quite an old homebrew game on the Amstrad. It's actually really good. I had that when I had my Amstrad Christ back years ago.
Yeah, it does look good.
It is good. It is a good game. No
screenshots though. I remember I had to go on YouTube and find a video of it. Yeah, looks good though. I think I like my shooters, and there's a few of them like homebrew wise on the Amstrad, which is always a good thing. So, oh, hang on, I'm missing some of the chat. So, Tetlee, anything you're after? Physical, like?
Yeah, I've got a couple homebrews for the next actually coming, which will be quite good because I haven't bought a game for that for ages, and that is Pat Morita. There's that Shovel Adventure. I don't know if any of you guys might have ordered that as well. Did you?
I'm the same. That is exactly what I was going to say. I'm waiting for all the stuff to turn up.
I got that, and I also added the other one. What's the other one he's done? Like a sort of, looked like a kind of Wonder Boy type game.
Like a Wonder Boy platformer sort of game, isn't it?
I ordered that as well because you can combine the postage, and that made that. So yeah, that'll be 2 new next games, which I'm really looking forward to. I haven't had a new next game for ages. But yeah, that's it for me for sort of upcoming ones. That Bomb Jack Beer Edition looked good, but the Specky Next Bomb Jack is really cool as well. Though, have you played that?
I've done it. I'm sure I showed that off on a Spectrum Spectacular or a live stream. That the next Bomb Jack is really good.
Yeah, because that's the only thing that stopped me buying that Beer Edition on Amiga. I think it's probably pretty equal par.
Yeah, so I'll just go through the comments here. Pig's Quest. Who was it? Someone did Pig's Quest recently, didn't they? Who was that?
Yeah, it was Martin.
Was Martin.
It was Martin. Yeah. Do you know one I wouldn't mind getting hold of? Yeah. One I wouldn't mind getting hold of was Dead Flesh Boy.
That's cool.
Problem is, though, if I'm right, that's one of them that you have to get from Spain, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Website, did he? That's Bum Fun Gaming.
Yeah, but last time I looked, I think he took his...
anymore.
Yeah, I think George just stopped, didn't he?
That's what I was about to say. His site's down, isn't it? Because when I went to look, it had gone down.
Yeah.
Because
I must have got that last order in on that site because I ordered, I think, in about November last year. I ordered. That was my first.
He hasn't been well.
I got a few games, luckily, and then just after that, we were going to order some more, and the site was down. So I was lucky. I got sort of the main ones I wanted.
Yeah, the only problem I found with them was that obviously you was paying like just as much for the postage, if not more, to get them sent over.
I had to order a lot of games to make it worth it.
Yeah. You wouldn't want to be just ordering the one because you'd order the game and then pay £22 for it because of the postage. Yeah.
I think the postage was the same. If you ordered up to sort of 7 games, it was the same postage. So I waited. Basically, my wife got me a few of the games as a Christmas present. So I waited until sort of close to Christmas to order a few games to make it worthwhile because, like you say, if you're ordering a couple, you're basically sort of doubling the price of the games just to pay for the postage.
Yeah.
But that's a sort of benefit of being outside of the EU, isn't it?
Mind you, Paul's saying here that George has a new website. Oh, okay.
That'll be interesting.
I know he's doing these videos on his website.
Yeah, I think we did see that, the one with the videos. So has he now got his games on there for sale as well?
Yeah, maybe.
We're all waiting on OSG reply now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Carl, what's the site? What's the site? Put a link in the chat. Yeah. Right, okay, guys. Well, we're coming up on we are on the 2-hour mark. So I think we'll wrap it up here. Go round each of us what we've got coming up. Me and Paul have got something coming up we're doing next Wednesday. But I think you should talk about that, Paul. What we got coming up next Wednesday? Yeah, go for it.
The brains behind what we're doing is definitely that way. When it comes to this, you're teaching me a thing or two. I'm the person who knows, not that much, and I'm going to learn so much from you. I think that's going to be part of the stream where I'm like,
interesting that, isn't it? It's interesting that because when it comes to working on computers and stuff like Commodore 64s now, I learned from you, and now with this, interesting how that works, isn't it? Well, I suppose the best way to explain it really was that obviously when I started Nerdy Geezer, the reason I call it Nerdy Geezer was because it was never meant to be just gaming. It was meant to be a mixture of all sorts of things, movies, collectibles, TV, you name it. It was going to be a thing, and that was why it was called what it was called. But over time, when we tried to mix the two different things, it just seemed to throw a massive spanner in the works with the channel, and it just wasn't getting any traction when we was trying to do it that way. And then we found, obviously, because of the lockdown and all that, we found we was playing more games. There was less movies coming out to talk about, so we naturally sort of flowed into that vein of things. But as time's gone on, I've kind of missed it, and I want to go back to the channel's roots. And I happened to mention in the group with Paul, I happened to mention that I was thinking of doing this. And Paul said, well, funny enough, I was thinking of doing the same thing. Is it all right if I do it with you? And I was like, well, yeah, of course. So, and that's where it came from, wasn't it, Paul, basically?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. For me, it was when I'd done the movie quiz. I just enjoy. I was like, I really enjoyed doing that. And it really got us back into watching movies. Like if I see a movie on now, I'll watch it. Whereas before, I'll be like, oh, can't be bothered or whatever. But at the minute, because it's all movies from the 80s and 90s that I'm watching. So for me,
same.
That's what I'm watching. But for you, you're watching more newer programs, and
just
you know
recently.
What I mean. So it's like a bit of a mix. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just recently, I'm starting to watch some of the new stuff, but that's only because just recently. I don't want to say too much because of the stream, but that's only because just recently the people seem to be releasing good stories again. Some people.
Yeah.
So I've started to watch some of the new stuff. But of course, it's good to watch the old stuff too, because then we can tear the shit out of it. So, so.
And then, because we're two different people, we'll have different views on the same movies. Yeah. You like stuff I don't, and vice versa. So
I suppose we should tell everybody what it's called. And then, funny enough, Si helped us with the title, didn't he? Because we was coming up with all these different ideas, and Si said, "What about this?" And that's no late fees. So, which is perfect because that's what you would have got if you took a VHS back late, wouldn't it? You would have got that old $2.99 extra charge for your extra day. Perfect title.
Yeah. Well, then you didn't know whether to take it again or leave it there.
What was that?
And then when they charged you a late fee, you didn't know whether to take it home again and watch it again or leave it there, did you?
Well, yeah, that's true. Yeah. So, it'd be interesting.
Did you charge late fees when you worked at the video shop?
Yes, we did. Yeah. And people just used to take it back for a we'd say it to them. We'd be like, well, you've got to rent it again for 3 days or whatever, how long it was. I think it was a week back then because we were quite late into it.
Yeah. Interesting comment there. Let's talk about Blade Runner. Oh, Retro Wall, trust me, that will get talked about at some point, without a doubt. I mean, especially when you consider how many different versions to that film there are as well. You know,
it's a bit like Apocalypse Now, isn't it? Them two films, Blade Runner, Apocalypse Now, have had so many releases. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. You know what?
Final
Yeah.
I mean, up there with that, I mean, you could also mention the original Star Wars trilogy, which you know will get done at some point because I'm a massive Star Wars fan. But I mean, there's been so many different versions of that now where they keep adding extra bits in and taking bits out.
It's like Disney have kind of followed on from George Lucas, isn't it? Because George Lucas himself started tinkering with them, but Disney are taking it to a whole new level, isn't they?
Yeah. And of course, like Paul's just been saying, we've got to do Aliens because it's got to be done, isn't it?
Yeah, but how many cuts has that had? Alien, especially. There's so many. Thing. There's a few different ones of the Thing.
I mean, Aliens Special Edition had quite a few minutes cut out of it, didn't it? Like the original did.
I think there's like an extra. It's like 28 minutes or something.
I was going to say it's
quite a bit,
a lot longer, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
You get to see your daughter, like what she looked like, and you get to find out what happened to her, and stuff like that. So.
Yeah,
I like what OSG has put there. Disney gets on my tits.
Totally agree.
I think it's all of us of a certain age.
OSG's definitely going to like this stream.
Disney can kiss my ass sideways. Disney can kiss my ass. Like, seriously, I hate Disney.
Then saying that, did you watch The Mandalorian today?
No, I will be watching it.
It's back on. Yeah,
I
watched it today. And it's very good. So
the problem I've got is I have to watch it when Connor's around, so I haven't had a chance yet. But I do intend to. But I'm happy to say, right? Well, actually, I probably shouldn't say this because I'm on the internet. But I'm happy to say, so I'm watching Mandalorian, and I'm not paying Disney for it. That's all I'm going to say. So, because do you know what? The way I see it is, they owe me something, right? I've been paying them for however long they've been going, and look at the crap I've been getting. Right, like they owe me something now. Like they do. Like it's a personal insult. Like I've been paying for their garbage. Like, but we'll get into all that anyway. So yeah. So other than that, that's really all I've got planned. Unless I can try and get a homebrew video done, maybe because I've got some homebrew games I haven't done yet. I've had for months. So maybe I'll try and do one of them for Friday. But other than that, that's what's next. You know, no more late fees. No late fees. So, Paul, what have you got planned other than that? Anything?
I've got a PlayStation top 10. It's best.
Oh, that's right.
Best fighting games on the PlayStation, and it's really, really difficult to fit 10 in. A couple maybe in there that you might not have played, but more importantly, this is in order. So for number 10.
I'll tell you what, I hope Bloody Raw is in that, because that is a game I loved.
Well, you'll have to watch and find out.
Hang on, PlayStation fighting games. Right, Soul Blade's got to be in there, surely.
You're not going to be
we're putting him on the spot now.
It's got to be in there. If it's not in there. Oh, here's one, right? Here's one, and everyone's going to laugh if they know this game. Star Wars Masters of Terrace Castle better be in there.
Are you going to be disappointed with that?
I won't because I'm joking. It's a terrible game. Like it's a game I own. It's a terrible game. It's a really bad game.
What was that Godzilla game that used to be on PlayStation? Beat 'em up.
That was just
what was that time?
There was a Godzilla one on a PlayStation. Me and my mate used to love it. Can't remember what it's called.
That was just on Godzilla, wasn't it?
Might have been.
Yeah, it might just be.
Oh, I need to go and track that down. That was a good game, that one.
God.
Get on eBay.
Battle Arena Toshinden was the first PlayStation game I ever played. It was in a demo.
It was an early one. It was on a demo disc. That's right.
That was in a demo on an HMV or Virgin. Yeah, and I remember me and my mate just kept playing it over and over and over. Yeah, Battle Arena Toshinden. Yeah.
All I can say is Battle Arena Toshinden is a very good game.
Oh,
so that's in there. Then.
So that might, you never know.
If that's in
Spoiler
there,
alert.
Soul Blade better be in there. Like if Tsushima's in there, I'm telling you.
Yeah, but the thing is,
crime if it ain't.
Soul Blade was shit when Soul Calibur come out, wasn't it? On the Dreamcast.
Oh yeah, but that was the second one in the series, though. So it's going to be better, wouldn't it? Like, it's like saying Tekken 3 is better than Tekken 1. Like,
yeah, but Tekken 2 is better than Tekken 3, though, isn't it?
Oh, I don't know. Nah,
I don't know.
disagree
I
with
think
that.
Tekken 2 was the better. I'm not a Tekken connoisseur, but I thought Tekken 2 was the better one.
I don't know.
Well, yeah, I think there's going to be some interesting comments.
This video is going to cause lots of debates and lots of comments for you, Paul, I think.
It really is.
Definitely.
I don't think a fair few will be positive either. But hey, it's my top 10.
Look. Looking forward to the comment section of Paul's new video. Yeah.
Well, to be fair, Martin is the only person that's seen it. So, well, I think I don't know.
OSG's agreeing with me. Tekken 2 was the best one. Yeah, totally.
I don't know. I mean, I've played them all, but
yeah.
Well, it would be if you don't agree, you can always do a response video.
What was the boxing one? Was it Knockout Kings on the PlayStation?
I like Victory Boxing best.
Victory Boxing, oh my
Victory
God.
Boxing quality.
Oh,
but Knockout Kings, I think that was like the EA Sports one, wasn't it? Victory Boxing. I'm pretty sure that was it not Square? Was it not like a Japanese game, or I'm sure it was like Japanese.
I know it was published by like JVC or something like that, wasn't it?
I think it was Knockout Kings I used to play a lot of.
Yeah.
Used to have George Foreman and that in it.
It was a popular franchise, that on thingy, yeah. So, Tetlee, what you got coming up?
Well, I was playing a lot of, as usual, I was playing a lot of ZX Spectrum stuff, but you guys know already, I killed my ZX Spectrum last night, so I'm lucky I've got the Spectrum next, so I might still do some Spectrum stuff on there, but I've got those tapes just turned up. Just about to order a data recorder, I think, so I can play those. But I'll probably be doing a bit of BBC Master, because obviously I've got that recently. And maybe some TI-99, because I've got some new games for that just turned up as well. So, yeah, bit of a mixture.
What's this? Any flakes, Tetlee? This is what Chef.
Every time Tetlee says TI-99.
Oh, right. I'm surprised he hasn't put what? That's normally what he does.
He has. He has.
About 3 times.
He already has.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So, Scott, what you got coming up?
Well, I've got a few videos in the pipeline. It's just getting my my arse into gear, really. I've got a Retro Realm video nearly done.
I was just about to ask you that. Have you got anything on the Realm coming up?
The last Retro Realm video, I was a bit like nervous in how that was going to be received, and it went down really well. So I'm going to continue doing sort of like videos from the Retro Realm. I've also got another Dreamcast game where I pick a random Dreamcast game out of the full set, play that. But
I'm loving that series because obviously I was never into the Dreamcast, but back in the day. But obviously I got one recently, so it helps me know what games are good and to look for. So it's a good series, that.
Yeah, it's random, obviously, but I'm sure we're going to play some stinkers along the way. But the first two videos,
you randomly pick the same game each time.
Well, I'll make sure I won't do that. I'm not doing it through like any technical means. I'm just literally going like that with my finger across the shelf. That's as technical as I get with it. But there's going to be some stinkers along the way, but there's some great games on the Dreamcast. So
that first racing game,
focus on games that not everyone's talked about. I know it's difficult to do in this day and age, but games that probably haven't had the limelight for a while are the ones I'm going to focus on.
That racing game you did, that one, I mean, I've been looking for that ever since, because that really did show your classic example of a Sega arcade racer. Like when you did that video, like the sounds, just the sound alone, I was like, yeah, see, that's what we don't get now.
You don't get that anymore. The really over enthusiastic commentary and
that's right. Yeah.
All that, you just miss all that, don't you? It's all so real and boring now.
Like when
And-
the voice like you win, like that.
Yeah.
It's like that. See, this is what we don't get now. Like, you
I
know,
know loud.
that's it. Yeah. When he did that video, straight away I was saying to Scott afterwards, like, I've got to get that game now because, yeah, it just reminds you of the old arcade races.
Just loading the game in, the whole loading screen, like there's 4-wheel thunder. And
That
you
was
get
it.
the
Yeah,
lightning and all
that was it.
We don't get that in a game anymore.
No.
You know, just seeing that loading screen, you're pumped up and you're ready to go, aren't you?
Yeah, and it does. The thing is, it looks like a great game too.
Is there a Sega Rally on a Dreamcast or not?
There is, yeah. Sega Rally 2's on the Dreamcast.
Yeah,
I think we will be covering that, but that's a bit of a
Marmite, bit of a Marmite.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
MSR, what OSG's put there. MSR is an amazing game, really good game, and you kind of take it for granted now, but that was the first game in a racing game to do a lot of different things, which we take for granted today.
What's
game
MSR?
That's Metropolis Street Racer on the.
Oh, is that what became Project Gotham?
That is right. Yeah, Bizarre Creations. That was their first.
Never seen that.
And if I'm right, it's quite a cheap one, MSR as well.
Again, yes, cheap game. Yeah, it won't cost you a lot.
Yeah, because if I'm right, is that the one that's got a red car on the front of it? I think it has, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the Vauxhall. It was done by Lotus, you know, the Vauxhall sporty car that was come and went as quick as it was out. It was gone again.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it's called.
I know they did a Carlton at one point. It was a Lotus, so I don't know. Yeah.
It looked like the little Lotus Elise or whatever it was. It just looked like one of them, but Vauxhall, basically.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I know what one you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got more of them to come, and I've also got the Spectrum Spectacular because I love doing those videos, and
I love those.
I've got a lot to share. I've got a lot to share. There's a massive update on the players subset, and I've mentioned it tonight, but there's new Spectrum hardware to show off, and as Tetlee mentioned, there's loads of Spectrum Next games or 2 Spectrum Next games in the pipeline, so there'll be videos all on that. Yeah.
Oh, and you just reminded me of something. There's something else I've got that's actually not a million miles away from me that I still haven't shown yet. That I've had for weeks. Scott and Paula know what that is, but I'm not going to give it away. But it's pretty big. You know what I'm on about, boys? Yeah,
I think I do. I thought you'd already shown it.
No, not yet. Not yet.
Ah, right. Okay.
I was gonna, but then I ended up in hospital, didn't I?
Yeah,
so I never got around to it.
That's unbelievable. Like, I'm looking forward to seeing that. It's massive.
Yeah,
it's mental.
Yeah.
That's it. The VX220 or the 220.
That's it. Yeah. It was.
You know what? I really wanted one of those.
That was a Jag, wasn't it?
No, it was Vauxhall.
Yeah, it was a Vauxhall.
Oh yes. Yeah, you're right.
Do you know what? I so wanted one of them.
If I'm right, it was like it was kind of like their version of the MX-5, wasn't it?
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah.
It was basically just a Lotus Elise or whatever it was at the time. I think it was the Elise, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Very, very quick because they were very lightweight.
Right. Okay. So, anything else anyone else wants to mention before we wrap it up?
Don't forget the quiz. I think it's March the 25th or 26th.
Do you know what? I don't know what date it is because I think Lee put several up the other day. One was 23rd, and then the other one I think was 26th.
I'm sure.
Yeah. I think it's the 26th. It's the 25th or the 26th. So
is Martin still in the chat? See if we can put the date in.
No, 26th.
Yeah, 26th.
Yeah, it was Lee Retro Chef got mixed up, didn't he? And he was saying 29.
Yeah.
I was like, it's next month.
Yeah, when he said like, oh, it's tomorrow, and I'm thinking that's just 26th of March, doesn't it? But then he put another one up, and I'm sure that one said 23rd, and I'm like, hang on, so which date is it now? I got really confused. Yeah.
The chef is Marty.
My mate still has one. He thinks he looks cool as fuck.
Yeah. I was just reading that. I'm not reading. I'm not reading that part. I'm not reading that part. Jesus Christ, YouTube hang us when you say that. Yeah, Jesus. I don't know. Right. Okay. I think that's a good note to wrap it up on, don't you? Before anybody says anything else. Right, so tradition on the show, we've got to do a dodgy 70s game show wave as we hit the outro. So see you later, guys. Thanks for watching. See you later.
Cheers, guys.